In a desolate landscape after the battle, we see a single man standing. In front of him, what was supposed to be his final opponent groans as he loses blood, too weak to rise. The man standing is revealed to be our villain, holding his sword with a satisfied smile. Standing before his last victim, he explains how he is only becoming stronger, and that there's no reason to fear as he is not wrong for it. With his evil grin, he proudly declares how much fun he had there as a human. But another person shouts from the background, reminding the villain that he is not human. A blonde man appears, attacking the enemy with a quick strike without hesitation. But the villain defends himself at the last second, causing a huge explosion as their weapons collide. He dodges in disbelief and grimaces. Meanwhile, the blonde man now calls him the embodiment of evil and introduces himself as Shin Ryan. The hero's power intensifies, increasing the devastation. The battle spreads across the entire landscape, leaving trails of destruction. Shin seems to be pushing himself despite his conviction. Our villain, however, is more enraged than ever and ready for a new attack against his opponent. His sword cuts through the air in front of him at high speed. But Shin Ryan is faster and manages to hold the enemy with his bare hands, leaving him speechless. The hero, with a determined gaze, says it is time for divine retribution. Our villain, in turn, screams and revolts, refusing to accept the situation. A massive final explosion caused by the hero's sacrifice finally ends that evil. The moon shines, and we are taken to a new era where an army runs with swords and scythes to attack someone. Soon, a familiar figure appears among the soldiers. Our villain is back. This time fully tattooed and leader of a cult, he is more determined than ever to become a god. Then a sword as fast as light pierces through all the enemy soldiers, leaving a whirlwind of blood in its wake, throwing everything into the air only to reveal that the hero is also back, his blonde hair blowing in the wind. He approaches with a glint in his eyes, while our villain smiles like a maniac, already preparing his sword to retaliate. Their strength and speed are so immense that it's nearly impossible to follow their clash, and we can only see their glowing trails across the rooftops as they fight. Wherever they go, they leave holes. With a single attack, they destroy rows of houses, creating a tunnel. At the end of the corridor of destruction, the hero appears pinned by a sword to the last remaining wall while our villain faces him confidently. Or so it seems, for in truth, the villain is staring back, and is revealed to be on the verge of death, poisoned by the opponent's blade. But he never gives up and reincarnates once more, even stronger, soon becoming the leader of a new cult. His red eyes show increasing determination in his fifth reincarnation. Two cults wage war. Destruction resumes, sending everyone on the battlefield flying. And at the center of it all stands our villain, right in the middle of a crater he created himself. Of course, the hero Shin Ryan appears once more to stop his enemy, flying toward him. But the reincarnation of evil merely lasts, for he is already used to it. The clash between the two is incredibly fast, and everything is decided within seconds. And once again, the righteous swordsman pierces his enemy with his blade. But this time our villain resists, trying to remove the sword. They stare at each other and argue about who is winning or losing, but Shin Ryan makes it clear it will only end when the opponent gives up. Our villain loses patience and accuses the blonde of persecution. But the hero says he is the only one who could defeat him and has no choice. His rage is so great that he breaks Shin's sword with his bare hand, and with a well-placed kick, tries to push his opponent away. The swordsman is thrown back, leaving a trail on the ground as he remains standing. Then his enemy appears, leaping toward him, ready for the final blow. Our villain's sword meets Shin Ryan's, causing a flash of light that kicks up dust. And finally, with his sword broken, the hero feels the force of his enemy's blade piercing through his armor. The red eyes and demonic smile proclaim victory. But Shin's words make our villain recoil in shock as he realizes there was a secret strike. The hero hugs his opponent, who now seems completely confused. He says that only a demonic weapon could defeat such an evil being as he holds him. Now our villain is afraid but acknowledges the bravery of his adversary, who simply laughs with great calmness, making him even angrier. The hero is undaunted and keeps smiling as he says it's destiny. Still embracing his opponent in the middle of the crater, the villain screams that it's all nonsense. The ground begins to shake around the two. From afar, a gigantic flash overtakes the entire landscape. The ball of energy destroys everything it touches, until only light and debris remain on the ground. Hajjam Wu, our demonic villain, returns as a baby for the 6th time to conquer the Murim. A baby cries at the top of his lungs. His mother is also impatient, looking for her other son. She walks holding her baby in her arms while searching for Hajjam Wu, who should already be there. But an announcement appears, informing of a portal opening between the nearby buildings, and everyone pays attention. People soon panic and start running, except for Hajjam Wu's mother. She tries to protect her baby in her arms while looking around worriedly for her older son. A nearby building explodes and begins to collapse, and people watch in terror. But while the others begin to flee and move away, the mother is paralyzed, unsure of how to react. The building crashes to the ground, falling sideways. In the place where the building stood, a demonic dragon now emerges, letting out a fierce roar. Other buildings are also destroyed, and the monster's sound echoes through the city. Many of those nearby are now buried or injured. But one holds her baby, trying to get up amid the rubble and wounded. With a mix of sadness and exhaustion, she still hasn't given up on finding her older son. However, her body can't take it, and she collapses again, unconscious. Someone is still standing amidst the chaos and approaches. It's a cheerful young man carrying a bag with a satisfied smile. The conscious people nearby soon notice the figure and become hopeful. It could only be a singular sent to save them. But the young man's cheerfulness quickly vanishes, replaced by pure anger as he explains he's not going to save anyone there. Now people seem truly confused. A man even yells at him, trying to understand why a singular wouldn't save them. But he just smiles again, amused by the situation. Soon after, he opens his bag and begins absorbing money from everywhere, as if using a vacuum cleaner, complaining about government taxes. An explosion makes the situation even worse for some of the civilians nearby, and the thief keeps laughing with his bag full of money. Other onlookers also shout angrily, vowing to expose everything when they get out of there. But something detonates where they stood, knocking them unconscious. It was the singular thief using his power, and he promises to eliminate all witnesses. With a big devilish grin, he decides to defeat the monster just to earn even more money, when a skinny, short boy interrupts him, saying he won't survive. The singular feels offended and asks if the boy really thinks he would lose to an 8th category demon. But the boy, with utter boredom, simply corrects him, saying the monster isn't that category, which leaves the thief worried and looking confused. Before he can react, he feels the presence of the monster right behind him and realizes there's no escape. He turns around just to confirm, and the kid was right, that demon was much stronger. A new announcement alerts that a 6th category demon had come through the portal as more buildings are destroyed by the monster's attack. The young man couldn't even react and was soon shattered among the debris. Now the demon is face to face with the boy, who doesn't seem easily intimidated. He simply stares at the beast and starts talking to himself, reminding not to overdo it. His mother and baby brother are lying on the ground just behind him, and he can't hurt them by accident. The demon dragon raises its claws toward the boy, while the boy now seems to be having a bit more fun. And with a single strike, he nearly destroys the entire monster, remembering his past lives. The demon's eyes bulge as he shatters, clearly in disbelief. The force of the blow incinerates half of the dragon in the air, leaving only half of that demon behind the small boy who defeated him. The boy is Hajjam Wu in his 6th reincarnation, and he is determined to become even stronger this time. In the middle of the city, smoke can still be seen rising from the building attacked by the demon. A man in a red jacket that looks like a uniform examines what's left of the monster. Climbing the destroyed building to get a closer look, he finds the singular thief taking an eternal nap. In his assessment, he realizes the creature was killed with a single punch, and as the leader of the singulars, he even drops a bead of sweat imagining the battle. After reviewing the camera footage, he still can't make sense of it, as all he saw was the little boy. Still trying to understand, he concludes that the monster could only have been defeated by him. A blonde boy calls out to him to leave, and his focus shifts as he remembers that this kid is also very strong and full of potential. He turns toward the boy, who waves cheerfully to get his attention. And the kid looks quite happy, even though he doesn't know that Park Sung-ho, the leader of the singulars, also considers him a monster. Meanwhile, Hajjam Wu is deep in thought, brooding over his past, when 3 masked men attack him from behind. The boy remains calm despite the 3 blades that seem to hit him. But in reality, the swords didn't land. He was faster, vanishing from the enemy's sight and slicing them to pieces. His aura shines an intense blue as he trains to become even stronger this time. Actually, he's training in a video game when his mother yells his name. He takes off the virtual reality headset only to face his furious mother for playing games so early. The boy even tries to explain its training, but that just makes his mom angrier, asking who he's planning to be up this time. Against his mom, there's nothing he can do, so he gives up with an awkward smile and says he'll stop. She comes closer, still very stern, pressuring him to promise, and he makes the promise. Still unconvinced, she asks again, even scarier this time, and he starts sweating, shouting that he promises. She's finally satisfied, and as she tells him to go wash his hands for breakfast, he just agrees, still shaken. The table is set with a full meal, and Hajjam Wu's mom stuffs a spoonful into his mouth to make sure he eats his vegetables. The boy gets excited and eats quickly, even though there's still time before school. The sun shines behind the roof, and in the playground, several other boys are running and playing on the swings, except for one who looks very confident. He's off to the side, and 2 friends try to convince him to give up on the idea of fighting Hajjam Wu. But the boy's conviction is strong. He wants to show his strength as the heir to a powerful clan. His friends, on the other hand, remind him that he's already lost to Hajjam Wu several times, which makes him furious. However, his determination prevails, and he even decides to show the secret technique he learned just for this. He braces his stance so hard that the ground cracks slightly around him, and he prepares to demonstrate the move against a tree while the boys watch. The punch flies at great speed into the tree trunk, creating a hole and splitting the wood. Only a stump remains, and the rest of the trunk goes flying. Now his friends seem convinced and even start rooting for him. He's proud, after all, he's the clan heir and knows he's strong, even though he gets really angry remembering how the kid humiliated him in front of the girl he likes. He channels his anger into determination, but his friends still wonder if he'll work and if Hajjam Wu will even show up. Then the boy himself answers calmly while reading a book that he will. The three are startled and at the same time excited. The powerful clan heir can't hide how annoyed he is that the move didn't even faze the boy. The three boys keep scheming their revenge, but Hajjam Wu is excited too. The rival boy pushes the frustration aside. After all, he even has a trump card, and he's not intimidated even by his opponent's demonic smile. The Golden River clan's house is beautiful and quite large. All the school children are there at an event in the hall. They chat with each other while Hajjam Wu just watches, bored. Finally, the clan heir appears, neatly dressed in a suit, thanking everyone for coming and holding a glass. His classmates get very excited, like normal kids, except our little protagonist, who looks even more bored, until something catches his attention. It's Yuhara, the girl his rival likes, and apparently everyone else does too. Everyone rushes to talk to the girl, who is very friendly. Even the host of the party melts completely as he hurries to greet her, which causes intense secondhand embarrassment for Hajjam Wu, who's watching from afar. The girl congratulates Kang Chun and the clan heir, leaving him flustered as she hands him flowers. And only then does she notice who else is there. She leaves the birthday boy behind, who is now fuming, to go speak with Hajjam Wu, who's slightly surprised. Kang Chun fills with rage, his head seeming like it's about to explode as he watches their conversation from a distance. Then he bursts out with a shout, demanding the two of them separate. In another room of the house, the atmosphere is much more pleasant, where the birthday boy's father chats with his butler about what he's taught his son. Though he smiles, he doesn't seem too pleased that the boy wants to defeat someone at the party. While his assistant adjusts his glasses and asks him to let the boy do as he pleases, clan leader Lee immediately waves him off to stop the lectures. But the man grows more serious as he changes the subject and asks about an artifact. Lee Hovik stays laid back and reminds him that the artifact is a rift core that can only be obtained by defeating demons. And since it's valuable, it can be traded for a lot of money, something his assistant loves, though it only makes him angrier. After all, it's not a common rift core, and his assistant explains that the stone was responsible for the downfall of all who held it. But the clan leader couldn't care less, leaving his employee even more worried, while Lee just smiles, confident that the artifact will have no power over him. Suddenly, something grabs both their attention, and they stop in shock. In the main hall of the party, Kang Chun has blasted a massive hole in the wall, and inside that hole is Hajjam Wu, lying among the rubble. The boy appears unconscious, sprawled on the rocks with smoke still rising from the spot where he was hit. Kang Chun celebrates, seeing his opponent fallen before him, and none of the other children are scared. In fact, they all think it's amazing as the boy shows off his strength. Feeling victorious, Kang Chun rushes to boast to Yuhara, telling her she doesn't need to be afraid anymore. But the girl seems even more bored than before and says she was never afraid of Hajjam Wu. He's stunned as Yuhara explains that Kang Chun hasn't even won yet. This infuriates him and he yells, showing off his strength, saying his rival would be unconscious for hours after that hit. But Yuhara's confidence in Hajjam Wu is so strong that she even suggests making a bet. The boy then remembers that the girl's ability is to sense her opponent's condition, and her confidence startles him. He glances back quickly just to make sure, and is shocked to see Hajjam Wu already standing like nothing happened. The boy is so startled he jumps back with a scream, but his rival calmly explains that getting hit was simply his birthday present. Kang Chun is confused and thinks he misheard. But as everyone watches and Hajjam Wu simply smiles, the boy is already preparing to fight again. The devilish grin from the red-eyed boy is the signal he's about to counterattack. Without a second thought, he charges at the well-dressed boy at full speed. Kang Chun tries to dodge his opponent's hands, stunned by the speed. But the boy is too fast and grabs his head. Throughout the house's hallways, another crash echoes, shaking everything. The clan leader is still talking to his assistant in his room when he realizes the children are fighting again. He stands up and his assistant immediately objects, saying he can't go to the kids' party. But Lee doesn't care, he's too curious to meet his son's rival. The assistant reminds him they're dealing with an important matter and needs information about the Rift Core. But the boss is fed up with that boring topic and orders his assistant to stop talking so much. Ever perceptive, the assistant realizes what this irritation is really about. The clan leader knows nothing about the core. Once again, the suited man adjusts his glasses to deliver a stern lecture, calling his boss a brainless brute. Despite being offended, Lee still doesn't care. But he does pause and pay attention when his assistant turns serious and begins telling the story of the artifact and its former owners. The brute is shocked to hear that the core once belonged to the former head of the singular association. And his assistant, knowing he's right, simply continues the story. He explains that the former owner had his family wiped out and because of that, decided to enter a rift alone. Since then, the core has only passed to leaders, yet all ended up eliminated along with their families, thus earning the artifact the title of Cursed, known for bringing ruin to all who possess it. The assistant then asks if his superior truly thinks he could have defeated the previous owner of the Rift Core. But the clan leader dodges the question to maintain his air of conviction. So the subordinate stares him down, reminding him the man died before even showing his power. And for that reason, the artifact should not be ignored. Finally, the clan leader gives in and awkwardly admits that he actually lost the artifact. This causes great shock in the suited man, who now looks even more concerned. Meanwhile, in the banquet hall, dishes and tables are shattered and scattered across the floor. The children appear stunned and shocked as they look around at the scene. including Hajjam Wu, who is lying on a broken table, stunned in disbelief. All the kids start cheering again, praising Kang Chun as incredible and powerful, while the red aura shines around him. But Yuhara notices something is off and is startled by what she sees. The boy is now surrounded by a bright red aura, and his expression has completely changed. Hajjam Wu notices the same thing and gets up, trying to understand what has changed. For the first time, Yuhara looks genuinely frightened, her eyes welling up with tears. Kang Chun now has an intimidating gaze and a devilish smile as he stares down his rival. The girl yells for all of her classmates to run away. Unaware of the chaos inside, a young singular in uniform waits to be received at the mansion's entrance. He's admiring the size of those gates, and is certain that the kid seen in the demon incident footage goes to the same school as the clan heir. While inside, the boy is wreaking havoc. The young man is determined to confirm his suspicions. Inside the house, chaos reigns and the children are running in fear in all directions. While the clan heir, despite being just a boy, now has a terrifying presence, he seems possessed. Yuhara tries to calm him from a distance while Hajjam Wu just watches. She tries using all of her charm to get the boy to lower his guard, but there's no response. The kid is clearly possessed, and his thirst for destruction shows in his demonic grin. The girl loses her voice and even her movement, paralyzed by fear. But Hajjam Wu keeps observing, already thinking about how this girl might become a future obstacle, since she can sense the strength of others. Kang Chun is no longer the same, completely overtaken by the evil spirit wanting to destroy everything. The girl then tells her friend to run, but this time she's the one who takes the hit. Thrown to the other side of the room from the impact, Yuhara only stops when she slams into a table. Kang Chun smiles even wider, fists clenched after landing a successful blow. Lying on the floor, the girl remains there, barely able to keep her eyes open. All she can do is hope someone saves her. As she watches the possessed boy approaching, she silently pleads for help. He gets closer and her eyes begin to close. But at the last second, she sees someone throw the boy away from her. Only then does she let go and lose consciousness. Nearby, our demonic prodigy is finally free to fight on equal terms and flashes his own wicked smile, charging at Kang Chun. Hajjam Wu doesn't even give his rival time to hit the ground. While he's still in midair, he delivers another blow. Kang Chun feels the impact and his smile vanishes, replaced by an expression of pain. He starts to remember when it all began, back when he received a trophy. He was overjoyed to have won the martial arts school tournament, but his father didn't seem pleased. He sternly told the boy not to boast over something that was already expected. Still holding the trophy, Kang Chun felt his eyes fill with tears. He just stood there, shrinking back, unsure how to respond. But then his father placed a hand on his head, and with a big smile, congratulated the boy on his victory, bringing back Kang Chun's happiness and pride. Snapping out of his memories, he forgets the pain and is once again overtaken by the shadows, blaming Hajjam Wu. Fallen after the last hit, he says that was the only time his father ever praised him. But before he can say more, he's hit with another punch, this time slamming the boy hard against the wall. Clearly, our protagonist doesn't care about his rival's childish drama and keeps his wicked smile. Kang Chun slowly gets up, wondering what kind of reaction that was, and his rival makes it very clear that it's entirely his own fault for being so weak. That brings the demonic expression back to the boy's face. His eyes turn red and filled with rage. He gets up so fast for a counterattack that Hajjam Wu barely notices when the boy arrives, ready to strike. A perfectly placed kick ends Hajjam Wu's villainous stance in seconds, sending him flipping through the air before hugging the wall, leaving our prodigy just as furious as he is in pain. Now Kang Chun stands tall again, surrounded by a red, malevolent aura, using his rival's own words against him. His face becomes once more unrecognizable, fit for an exorcism. Meanwhile, in Lee Hoguk's room, the clan leader is still being scolded for having lost the cursed magical artifact. His assistant searches every corner while shouting angrily for him to look as well. Leader Lee still can't believe that such a curse could have affected someone as strong as the former head of the association. But his assistant, despite lacking full details, seems genuinely worried about the rumors. Rumors that speak of cursed cores controlling their users, just as is happening now with Kang Chun, without anyone realizing it. And while the boy mercilessly pounds Hajjam Wu, it all finally begins to make sense. He truly is possessed by a demon. Hajjam Wu spits out even the saliva he doesn't have after the last blow. Once again, he's flung against another wall. Kang Chun grows more consumed by that dark aura as he mocks his rival, asking how it feels to get beaten up. After all, he always thought he was so special, as the boy says with glowing eyes and a mocking smile. That's when Kang Chun remembers the moment he found a strange stone on his father's shelf. The beautiful blue stone seemed to call to him, promising limitless power. And of course, the boy went straight for it, grabbing it to gain strength. The moment he touched it, he felt its power and energy surrounding everything. He tells his rival how badly he wants to defeat him while recalling how he got so strong. But our wicked prodigy's sense of humor is limitless, and he laughs again. Even Kang Chun doesn't understand, and now furious, asks what he's laughing at. But Hajjam Wu, clever from so many reincarnations, explains that it's funny because he already knows that the demon isn't Kang Chun, it's just pretending. The boy doesn't like this talk and immediately tries to shut his rival up with a punch. but this time he's ready and dodges, quickly taking the chance to grab Kang Chun by the hair and rubbing it in his face that he's stronger than some second-rate demon. For Kang Chun, with his face smashed, that was the final straw. He's filled with hatred but can't move much, so he tries to strike back with words. With an equally demonic expression, Hajjam Wu holds him firmly, explaining that the boy is housing a parasite. Being called a worm finally provokes the demon, but our little monster is faster and simply grabs his hand before it can strike. The boy is surprised, but not for long before he finds himself slammed face-first into the wall. Now he seems to finally feel pain as the wall embraces him. But Hajjam Wu doesn't care and keeps walking slowly toward his opponent, who's now certain this kid is insane. As the little villain's face lights up with cruelty, his opponent realizes he's a monster. The demon possessing the boy finally understands it needs a stronger body, and almost as if the universe responds to his wish, the unsuspecting Singular walks into the room, asking what's going on. Without much explanation, the young man begins asking about Kang Chun, but he doesn't understand anything when the boy suddenly grabs him by the waist. He asks if the boy is the one he's looking for, but he immediately senses something off. A great black aura begins surrounding them both as the young Singular starts screaming, and before he can resist, it's too late. He's possessed. Now that the demon has changed bodies, little Kang Chun is left kneeling in front of him. The young Singular, with a different glow in his eyes, is completely controlled by the demon, who makes it clear the game is over. Lee Hobuk finally arrives at the banquet hall only to witness a scene he can't comprehend. His son, on the floor and vulnerable, has lost all his strength, which fills the clan leader with rage. He goes for the most obvious question and asks the young Singular if he was the one responsible for the boy's condition. But the only response he gets is, "You should leave while you can. I'm in a bad mood." The reply immediately makes Hobuk show off his strength, and with a mocking smile he asks, "Aw, are you cranky?" Then he reveals that his weird laugh was also out of nervousness. The clan leader dashes toward the Singular at absurd speed, preparing one of his deadly strikes, and an entire side of the hall explodes from that single attack. The possessed young man insults even a previous generation of Lee's family while holding the arm that took the brunt of the hit, but he still has enough strength to threaten the man who left him in that wrecked state, though that rage is quickly replaced by surprise, as he sees the muscle-bound leader still standing right in front of him, fist clenched, ready for another round. Without hesitation, Hobuk unleashes his celestial annihilation again, driving the possessed deeper into the wall, causing the blue stone, hidden all this time, to pop out from its hiding spot. The assistant, observing with keen eyes, instantly recognizes the curse rift core and shouts, almost ordering his own leader to retrieve the artifact, which is exactly what the brute is about to do. But before he can lay a hand on the stone, it vanishes into thin air. Hajjam Wu, who had simply waited for the right moment, was faster and snatched the object first. The assistant starts shouting again, now even more nervous, warning how dangerous it is and that it must be taken away immediately. But Hajjam Wu, as always, doesn't care. He just waves goodbye to the demon, ready to destroy the stone. As the spirit inside tries to bribe him with power, the boy simply laughs at the lack of self-awareness. He's the one about to end it, and without further conversation, the boy closes his hand, destroying the stone. The clan leader and his assistant are in shock, devastated by the waste of such a valuable item. But the boy keeps crushing the remains until the stone is reduced to dust. The sky is blue as always. Outside the clan mansion, parents reunite with their children, while the clan leader's assistant goes around apologizing to each of them. And a medical team assists the wounded. Through large windows with elegant curtains, it's clear that peace has returned. Now the assistant cares for the clan's heir, who complains about the pain. Tearfully, he tells Chong that he doesn't remember anything that happened. Chong is now certain of his theory and watches as the boy's personality returns to normal. The little one cries, saying his friends will now be afraid of him, and that his birthday was horrible. He remembers getting beaten up, but Chong quickly tries to deflect, saying it must have been a nightmare. The boy then notices his father isn't around, and Chong debates whether to tell him. A noise upstairs draws both their attention. Kang Chun nervously asks what's happening, but once again the assistant just grumbles. In another room, a young man who looks very much like Lee Hoguk is thrown to the ground. Fallen at the clan leader's feet, the young man seems to give up. Hajjam Wu, once again with his bored face, just watches the two. The young man kneels beside the clan leader, observing the situation. He is the clan leader's eldest son, now asking his father for forgiveness. Lee Hoguk, sharper than he looks, is now face to face with Hajjam Wu and knows it was he who defeated his younger son. The boy asks if he's being accused of something, but Lee Hoguk explains he misunderstood and now realizes that, like Park Sung-ho, his son had also been under the artifact's control. The boy listens carefully to the leader's conclusions, and finally hears the reason why he was asked to spar with the older brother, who had been easily defeated. Hajjam Wu then smiles, feeling proud. The clan leader gets excited and asks if he'd like a match with him too, but Hajjam Wu doesn't take it as a challenge. He sees it as stubbornness and lets out an awkward little smile. The elder son quickly reminds his father that this kid is one of Kang Chun's friends and begs him not to fight. But Hobuk ignores him and repeats the question eagerly, wanting to know if the boy will face him too. The clan leader's eldest son is very nervous, certain this will end badly. But Hajjam Wu just smiles, pleased with the offer, and asks, "Is it free?" Which immediately kills the older brother's concern. Now he's absolutely sure the kid is crazy. Lee Hoguk, on the other hand, is thrilled and bursts into laughter. The brute cheerfully explains that he likes the boy's attitude, so full of courage and strength, and he even sounds like he's giving a lecture as he tells Hajjam Wu that power and courage must walk hand in hand. Internally, the boy can only think about how simple and ignorant leader Lee must be. But the man assumes the kid might be afraid of his power and asks him directly, receiving a flat no in response. Hovik gets excited, his smile widening, and the cheeky boy casually asks if he's the one nervous about having to use his strength. The leader proceeds with a lightning-fast attack, admitting that of course he had some hesitation. Hajjam Wu gives him no opening and dodges the brute's punch with ease. But more lightning-quick blows come flying in. The little monster dodges until he's forced to crash into a pillar. That's when the brute sees his chance, activating his celestial dragon fist and landing a direct hit on the boy. Running toward the sounds of impact are Kang Chun and the assistant Chong, rushing to calm the situation. Chong is panicked, afraid Lee Hoguk might go too far against a kid who's barely 9. But on the way, they're surprised by someone being thrown into a wall that shatters in front of them. It's the clan leader, collapsed on the ground, apparently unconscious. The hole in the wall is enormous. Footsteps echo from what's left of the rubble. A familiar smile appears, bringing a sense of nostalgia. It had already been 10 years. Out steps Hajjam Wu, now 17, pulling out his earphones after hearing someone call him. His smile hasn't changed even after all that time. Hajjam Wu examines the hole in the wall, still untouched. Kang Chun greets him like a friend now, asking what he's doing there. The young man questions the hole that's been there for 10 years and wonders when they'll fix it. But Kang Chun explains that his father would never allow it. Suddenly, Lee Hoguk appears, asking why anyone would want to fix the wall. After all, it's a reminder of the first time he was defeated. But Hajjam Wu disagrees, saying defeat isn't something to brag about. The leader even agrees that losing to a brat wasn't something to brag about. But with a manic grin says it's fine because Hajjam Wu was very powerful. And with a quick motion, he attacks the boy, knowing that even if he's strong, he's nothing compared to him. The young man barely dodges the thunder strike, surprised by the welcome, but the attack ends up hitting Kang Chun instead. Overcome with excitement, his father doesn't even notice and just keeps talking about the divine chai he received from Hajjam Wu. Meanwhile, the boy remembers how in past lives, he'd never even think about giving that kind of power to someone else. But he smiles, realizing that in this reincarnation, Murim doesn't even exist anymore, and it's fine to just have fun. Beside him, Kang Chun is still recovering from his dad's hit and shouts for it to stop before things get worse. Only then does Lee Hoguk realize his mistake and halts the electric barrage. But his son is already quite affected, barely able to stand for a moment. Even so, his irritation wins out as he yells at his father not to use that power so recklessly. Just then, Assistant Chong arrives, agreeing with the heir of the clan, especially since that power wasn't exactly free. Hajjam Wu now looks confused, scratching his head, trying to remember. Chong responds, stating that the divine chi was sold for 10 billion won, but Hajjam Wu plays dumb. The two argue about the high price, and the young man eventually admits remembering the sale. The assistant also reminds him that he had said he'd sell it to another clan if they didn't buy it, but Hajjam Wu defends himself, saying it wasn't that much money, and he really needed it at the time. Chong, now with a serious expression, reminds the boy that, on top of that, he's now the clan's vice leader. And Hajjam Wu gives up trying to argue. After all, he's getting paid really well for a part-time job. Meanwhile, Hoduk's joy lightens the mood as he hugs both of them, saying it's all in the past, and thanks to it, the clan's power has only grown. Suddenly, a girl calls out to Hajjam Wu using a cute nickname, grabbing his attention. The little girl jumps up and hugs him around the waist, leaving the young man completely confused. He scolds her for calling him that and asks who told her to call him darling. Hurin, Hovuk's youngest daughter, points straight at her dad, who looks proud, and with a huge, shameless grin says he'll do whatever it takes to make Hajjam Wu his son-in-law. Hajjam Wu, shocked, reflects on a child being taught to call him darling while she squeezes his cheeks. But Hoguk doesn't seem to care about the boy's opinion and says that his wife is friends with the boy's mother in a threatening tone. Already outraged by the situation, the boy asks if he should beat the man up again. With a lot of mockery, the leader jokes that his son-in-law wants to beat him up, making Hajjam Wu even angrier. In a last attempt, Hoguk asks if in the future he will accept being his son-in-law, but now the young man just walks away with a child in his arms, saying he doesn't know. Lee Hoguk is actually still very curious, since even with the divine chi, the power gap between them hasn't narrowed. So he asks that his daughter grow up quickly to catch him before the others, and she appears confident, while Hajjam Wu simply judges him silently. The boy and his Kang Chun are now walking down a sidewalk. The successor of the clan asks his friend if he will really be his brother-in-law someday, but the boy only says he doesn't know. Changing the subject, he now asks Hajjam Wu if he's really going to specialize in magic. Not understanding why, he asks what the young man thinks is lacking in him. Hajjam Wu stops and explains that his specialty is swordsmanship, but he still doesn't have the perfect style. which surprises Kang Chun, who thinks his friend is amazing but asks again why the sudden change. Hajjam Wu's answer is that he can't just walk around with a sword since it would draw too much attention. Internally, he still wants to become stronger in this life. Even though he no longer cares about Murim, he feels he will meet his old enemy again. They arrive at the singular academy building where powered humans are trained and where they receive their high school diplomas. Many people are at the gates cheering for friends and relatives. The two are startled by the number of people there, and soon realize there seems to be some confusion when people call them by different names. Several girls run excitedly in their direction. Kang Chun doesn't quite understand since he knows who they're talking about and that they don't look that alike. But actually, the famous guys were behind them, and one of them tells him to get out of the way. The girls now also head toward them, telling them to move aside. When one of the popular guys slaps Kang Chun to push him out of the way, the boy is in disbelief for being slapped by the girl's idol, and gets even angrier when he hears them say he was an ugly guy getting in the way. He's still trying to process the information and understand why they think he's ugly. His anger starts to rise since his tolerance is as low as his father's, but it quickly fades when he sees the blonde idol being thrown between him and his friend. Hajjam Wu watches in shock. Everyone gets concerned, and Kang Chun asks what's going on. When a new figure appears among the crowd, teeth clenched, a boy and his gang in suits now make their presence known, intimidating the clan successor. Kang Chun finally recognizes the guy as Park Kyo, but Hajjam Wu just stares without making a move. The guy introduces himself as a rookie from the Black Tiger clan with an intimidating look, his scar and tattoo. Kang Chun is confident it's the moment to teach a lesson to the rival clan's successor, but as he prepares to face him, Hajjam Wu stops him by grabbing his arm. He tries to protest, but the boy seems firm for some reason, and shows the situation to his friend with just a tilt of the head. Turns out the girls were also going to confront the arrogant one who had attacked their idol. But even so, the guy wasn't intimidated. The furious girls shouted for him to take responsibility for what he did to the celebrity, while the blonde guy still tried to get up with the help of his friends. The Black Tiger clan successor doesn't move even with the fan screams. He awkwardly explains that he's not used to apologizing, seeming even more arrogant. And with a smile, he says he'll make an exception because they're asking so much. The girls are startled when he extends his hand to them, and in it appears a kind of strange green smoke, which soon transforms into a rather pretty green apple. He throws the apple at the girls as if that were some kind of compensation, and they obviously think it's ridiculous and don't understand what the apple is for. But soon the apple reveals itself as a green smoke bomb that spreads over all the girls, making them cough and choke, crying for help. The Black Tiger and his gang smile sarcastically, asking what those faces are for, and begin lecturing them about not getting involved where they weren't called, while his buddies judge them as idiots. The fangirls are already on the ground, desperate, but still asking for help. But the only response they get from the boy is that it was their own fault. Suddenly, Kang Chun charges at Park Kyo, stepping over the girls to launch an attack. However, his punch is blocked by a kick, putting them on equal footing. The arrogant tiger tries to lecture him, saying Kang Chun would end up like his father if he kept meddling, and that his clan would become a joke. But he isn't intimidated and throws the same words right back at him. Around them, some boys gather to watch and record the clash between the successors. And Hajjam Wu keeps observing, confident that his friend can handle it alone. Full of rage, Kang Chun demands to know why Park Kyo poisoned the girls who posed no threat at all. And the guy just deflects, acting like nothing happened. However, just behind them, the girls now seem fine and didn't understand what was going on. With a mocking smile, Park Kyo defends himself, saying all he did was get in the way of an arrogant celebrity. Kang Chun then seeks support from the boys who gather to watch the fight. But none of them take sides, and they all confirm that the blonde guy always abuses his popularity. Hajjam Wu lets out a nervous chuckle as he realizes his friend's rival is turning the situation around. Kang Chun only gets angrier and starts yelling at the boys around him. Taking advantage of the moment, the cunning Black Tiger successor prepares for an attack. And by the time young Kang Chun notices, the strike, more like a snake's lunge, is already too close. Still, not close enough to avoid as the boy grabs his opponent's arm and counters directly. The tiger's comrades get worried for a moment, and even the girls now cheer for Kang Chun to teach that delinquent a lesson. But the boy, now in control, simply asks if he should give him a beating, saying arrogant people deserve to be hit. With little reaction, Park Kyo just curses at his rival, while Kang Chun becomes even more confident knowing his opponent's abilities and that he won't be affected by his poison. But for some reason, all the intimidation doesn't work on the tiger's successor, who just smiles. He grabs Kang Chun's arm as if performing some kind of trick. Even Hajjam Wu notices something strange. But before anything else can happen, a representative from the academy shows up to stop the ruckus. He orders the two to back off, and Kang Chun reluctantly obeys while his rival still shows some confidence. The boy, still full of rage, says this isn't over. But his opponent just walks away, telling him to give up. The academy official now turns to the other students, ordering them to proceed to their tests. But first, a sprite, Hajjam Wu and Kang Chun drink their sodas as if nothing had happened. Our protagonist harshly mocks the situation, making his friend spit out soda like a fountain. He wipes his mouth and defends himself from the insult with the excuse that he wouldn't do anything in front of a teacher. Hajjam Wu tells him not to get involved in anything he can't finish, or one day he'll suffer the consequences. And with an ironic smirk, he says that Park Kiho must think he's an idiot. Kang Chun is more sensitive and already feels bad about the insult, while his friend just stares at him without a trace of remorse. Hajjam Wu grabs his arm, startling the boy. Shocked, he immediately asks what he's doing. When the boy's coat sleeve is lifted, the opponent's finger marks are visible. The dark prodigy quickly recognizes the chai absorption technique and grows concerned. That could only mean there was another reincarnated person there, still at the Singular Specialization Academy. Hajjam Wu has a worried look, remembering a past life. He recalls his 5th life, when he was just a sect member fighting against common enemies. He cut through them easily with his sword. After defeating 13 enemies, he still wanted to reach 8 more before resting, when a voice from someone in his path draws his attention. Another young man his age had already captured all the remaining enemies, and with a maniacal expression, he said he wouldn't leave any for Hajjam Wu to enjoy. One of the captured enemies was a girl who cried and begged for her life, but the maniac just covered her mouth, and with a terrifying smile said he'd soon put her to sleep, activating his chai absorption technique. The girl's eyes widened as her face filled with veins. Suddenly, several beams of red light made of pure energy gathered toward the maniac. Hajjam Wu tried to shield himself from all that energy while watching. That's when he finally realized what was happening. The captured enemies are having their life force drained. All of them at once were being brutally sucked dry. Finally, that weirdo stops and exhales as if he had just finished a massive feast. He looks at the lined-up bodies and asks if Hajjam Wu defeated them one by one, then explains that it's more efficient to take them all down at once. Our protagonist, despite being powerful, clearly remembered that this guy gave him more trouble than usual. He recalled it was because of him that he lost energy in an important battle, even though he defeated him. That's when, in digging through his memories, he remembered one more thing. The Blood Scholar, facing his end, revealed something important. Already on his knees, he lamented not having drained the power of 10,000 humans to reach his superior form. As he walks toward his test, Hajjam Wu remembers well the power of the blood spirit body. He knew that Siu Moon Hill, the Blood Scholar, even after absorbing only 3,000 humans, had already been a major challenge to defeat. And in his final moments, the man had even threatened to complete his power if he ever reincarnated, just to destroy him. But now wasn't the time to jump to conclusions, since he still needed to confirm if Park Kiho was truly the reincarnation of the bloodthirsty one. Kang Chun's voice brings him back from his thoughts as the boy approaches. Hajjam Wu asks why his friend isn't doing his test yet, but the boy says he's too curious about the marks on his arm. The voice makes the final call for candidates to their tests over the loudspeakers as Kang Chun complains. Our prodigy is great at changing the subject and asks if his friend won't take the test, which makes the boy give up. As each follows their path, Hajjam Wu decides not to say anything until he's sure. On a blackboard, a teacher writes complex formulas, and the board is truly filled with them all over as the class just watches. As he continues his calculations, the teacher asks if his students know the relationship between math and magic. With a book in hand, he explains that physics and mathematics are essential to understanding magical nature. And while everyone in the room grumbles and complains, the teacher simply smiles. Another staff member knocks on the door, catching the man's attention. He informs that it's time for the test with the candidates. Stu, the blonde guy, is already preparing to fulfill his duty. On the testing court, teenagers chat in groups. Hajjam Wu, for his part, seems out of place with his level 3 ID card. Not far away, a girl with red braids also doesn't seem very social, and her card shows number 1. Suddenly, Park Kiho appears, calling out to Hajjam Wu. He just looks at the tiger, already imagining how much trouble will be saved since he's also in the magic course. With an arrogant look and mocking smile, Park Kiho sees himself as superior upon noticing his rival's friend is only a level 3. Certain he can use him to get to his rival, he decides to order Hajjam Wu to meet him at the exit. The nerdy girl with braids immediately starts paying attention to the boys' conversation. But Hajjam Wu doesn't break his posture and indifferently asks why he should do that. In disbelief of the boy's audacity, Kiho asks if he hurt him right, while the delinquents following him are all shocked by the boy's boldness. The Black Tiger successor tries to intimidate him by stepping closer and saying to do as told if he doesn't want more trouble. Then the nerdy girl steps in fearlessly, asking if that was some kind of threat. Everyone looks at the girl, who apparently posed no threat. In his arrogance, Park Kiho just asks who she is. But with exemplary manners, the girl formally introduces herself as Che Yun-jung. Without losing her seriousness after being ignored, she asks again if they're threatening another candidate. With his sarcastic smile, Kiho tries to deflect. But the nerdy girl isn't fooled and plainly asks the boy to apologize. Even Hajjam Wu was surprised by that reaction. One of Park Kiho's followers resorts to insults. Unshaken, Cha Yun-jung summons a magic circle in front of her, asking if that's all they've got to say. And as the goon tries to insult her again, she activates her barrier, sending the idiot flying. Now Hajjam Wu was not just surprised, he was stunned. Everyone around begins to watch after that incredible display of power. But the clan successor is not intimidated and just smiles with his usual superiority, saying she's full of herself. The girl stands firm, demanding he apologize. Now running out of patience, the black tiger tells her to come closer if she wants an apology. And for the first time, Hajjam Wu speaks, but only to warn the boy not to approach. Annoyed, Park Kyo questions the boy, but the response is even ruder when our protagonist speaks syllable by syllable, telling him not to come closer. The gang leader's expression of hatred looks more like a stomachache as he refuses to be ordered around. But our prodigy is far worse and gives him just a single look. Park Kyo narrows his eyes, unable to believe that presence. He starts trembling all over without even understanding why. His lackeys are right behind him, trying to encourage him to go forward, but their leader just tells them to shut up. And indeed, the black tiger really did have a stomachache. He just didn't know why. Jung Woo had already noticed and simply smiled. Once again, Chai Yun-jung steps in, asking the boy to just apologize already. He was sweating cold and furious. In that moment, he looks at the girl but can only think about why he's feeling so sick right now. His target quickly shifts and he charges at the nerdy girl. His lackeys cheer him on, but his attack is a total failure as he slams into an invisible barrier in front of the girl. Everyone watching around, however, hears another noise coming from the boy and immediately cover their noses. Park Kyo trembles violently, clenching to fight off the stomach pain. His lackeys, still confused, ask what's happening to their leader, but he can only tell them not to come near as his strength gives out. And finally, he gives up. And out of all the crap the tiger had pulled so far, this was without a doubt his biggest mess. From outside the gym, the screams of the horrified and desperate candidates could be heard reacting to Park Kyo's stench. Fortunately, the hallways had big windows, and soon all the candidates were seeking fresh air as the cleaning team went to work. Not even the teacher could stand the stench, covering his nose with a handkerchief. A janitor apologizes, but the blonde man says he saw everything that happened. The staff member then asks why he didn't intervene, and with a laugh, Professor Richard says it was entertaining. Considering the exam was compromised, the janitor asks what they'll do, but Richard reassures him, explaining they'll just do a manner reading. The janitor relaxes and asks if there's anyone promising among the candidates. The blonde man's eyes go straight to Jung Woo and his nerdy protector as he says he's already found someone with potential. The candidate immediately notices the professor's gaze examining her due to her mana. But humbly, she greets the man and apologizes for the disturbance. Richard, in turn, simply compliments her and tells her she has passed, which causes a reaction of pure joy in the girl, who now promises to do her best. Now turning to Jung Woo, the professor also notices something incredible, even though the boy remains indifferent, at least until he realizes the professor's aura is far more powerful than what's listed on his file. Richard looks at the boy's card and says he doesn't seem very talented, which makes the nerdy girl let out a discreet giggle. Though irritated, Jung Woo doesn't defend himself. However, as the professor still tries to decide whether to accept the untalented youth, a voice echoes in his mind. Surprised, Richard realizes the boy is using telepathy. He's so shocked he even forgets about the smell. He immediately begins questioning the boy mentally, asking if he's capable of learning both magic and martial arts. But Jung Woo remains calm, explaining that they aren't incompatible specialties. He just isn't very familiar with magic. They continue the mental conversation about the possibility as everyone returns to the court. Jung Woo remains confident, explaining that he would like to combine both specialties. The professor, however, becomes stern, saying the boy is underestimating magic. They stare each other down as they debate Jung Woo's acceptance into the class. And telepathically, the boy says that the evaluation should be fair. Finally, the professor speaks out loud and asks how the candidate knows so much about magic. Jung Woo, with a proud smile, replies that he's self-taught. Outside the academy, people are already starting to leave. Kang Chun is waiting for his friend near the gate, curious about the result. He greets him with a smile, which quickly turns into laughter that Jung Woo doesn't join in. Kang Chun then says he heard about the incident with his rival. Finally, Jung Woo explains that what caused it was a mental technique. The boy looks surprised and asks if his friend caused the diarrhea. And calmly, the dark prodigy confirms he was the one responsible. Now Kang Chun is very proud of his friend and immediately starts asking more about the technique. But the boy cuts off his friend's enthusiasm, asking him not to make it so obvious. It was just a test. The question then becomes whether everything was already planned, since he didn't understand why Jung Woo would do that. Then he explains that in his judgment, a guy who uses chai absorption deserves it, and that the technique worked despite his physical resistance. Kang Chun looks confused and asks what exactly chai absorption it is, and Jung Woo prepares to explain. He starts by mentioning the greatest scumbag to ever exist in the history of martial arts. In a quiet, dark room, footsteps can be heard. The sound echoes near a bed, and right there, hidden, is a terrified and panting young singular. She trembles as the footsteps seem to get closer and closer. The girl doesn't even blink, clutching her only weapon. Then she finally sees someone's legs stepping into the room. The footsteps stop when the person stands right next to the bed. Automatically, she covers her mouth to muffle the sound of her breathing. But he's still there wearing dress shoes. He seems to be waiting for something, but soon gets tired and walks back the way he came, leaving the room and shutting the door behind him. The girl still waits to make sure it's safe to come out. and eventually she does, though still cautious. Her first sight after leaving her hiding spot is disturbing. Two men hanging like decorations are mounted on the door and wall. One of them also wore a Singular's uniform. The girl runs in desperation, nearly tripping along the way. But in the hallway, the horror is worse as she sees many others in the same state, sprawled across the floor. Terrified, she can only think this must be the work of a demon or a nightmare, until she feels a sharp blade and hears a voice asking why she left her hiding place. Now she knows this isn't a nightmare, and she begins to cry as she faces the devil himself. He delights in the girl's panic as he tells her there is no salvation. Even while screaming, the young Singular slowly fades as if something is draining her life, and to think it was nearly dawn at the hotel. Morning light shines on the buildings of the Singular Academy. Students come and go while a notice echoes announcing the start of classes. In the courtyard is our dynamic duo. Kang Chun, wearing his most curious expression, says someone is looking at them. He's referring to Chae Yoon-jung. The girl looks again in their direction and this time notices she's been seen, which sparks Jung-woo's curiosity as he stares back. The nerdy girl shrinks with embarrassment, accidentally using her magic and causing a minor incident with some nearby students. Sharp-eyed Kang Chun looks at the two and asks what's going on because clearly she was looking at his friend. But Jung-woo, annoyed by the nosiness, tells the boy to mind his own business. The subject quickly changes, returning to Kang Chun's curiosity about chai absorption. But he ends up a little awkward when he realizes his friend wasn't as bothered as he thought. Jung-woo notices something different. Nearby, they see Park Kyo arriving at the academy. His arrogance now seems replaced by defeat. The guy looks wrecked. Even so, Kang Chun is surprised to see him back so soon, considering the shame he went through. Our protagonist, on the other hand, simply starts walking toward the black tiger, raising questions. With a smile, he tells his friend that he still needs to clear something up. Upon being called by name, the arrogant delinquent turns around, but he's already hostile, asking what his rival wants. Shaken and unstable, he accuses Jung-woo of coming just to mock him. With his usual indifference, Jung-woo simply grabs his wrist, taking him down with a completely unexpected move. But Park Kyo manages to recover before hitting the ground. Now furious, he tries to get answers, not knowing the boy could fight. Jung-woo explains that he wouldn't go around bragging about something that would reveal his potential to enemies. While the Black Tiger's successor realizes that makes sense, he still feels rage after being called stupid. That anger drives him to charge at his offender, but his strike doesn't come anywhere near the target, nor do any of the other attempts. It doesn't take long before other students around notice the commotion. Park Kyo accuses his opponent of dodging like a rat, but that doesn't offend our dark darling. In fact, it becomes the perfect cue to start his attack. Right away, a right cross lands clean on the little tiger, literally breaking his face, and with force, he's thrown into a wall. He coughs up a bit of blood as he hits the floor, but Jung-woo is already standing right in front of him. Park Kyo even tries to insult his opponent, but he can't even get up to do it. He takes a solid kick from a sneaker, twisting backward, and once again crashes into the wall, this time seeming nearly unconscious. He slumps straight to the ground, but Jung-woo still watches to see if he can continue. Since he doesn't seem able to get up, a ruthless protagonist steps on him without mercy. The boy, despite his rage, doesn't react even as he's lifted by the head. With indifferent eyes and an entertained smile, Jung-woo asks if he wants more. But the guy is so broken at this point, all he can do is mumble and threaten revenge, which doesn't work at all on our favorite villain, who slams his head back into the ground again, then lifts him once more to take a good look at his mashed up face. He gives a terrifying smile and asks again if Park Kyo wants more. The only response is a face of disbelief and shock. The battered Black Tiger's successor feels like a toy in the hands of a psychopathic child. But Jung-woo's sadism seems to have no end, and he presses the boy for an answer. Should he keep going or not? When suddenly, a red cloud of smoke begins to form around Park Kyo. He finally reacts, expanding his toxic smoke and attacking directly. Jung-woo defends with his arms, stepping back. The student crowd immediately gets excited, seeing this situation about to turn. Now the sadistic one feels the impact of the poison, which begins to intoxicate him. The onlookers grow upset with the use of poison in the fight, calling it cheating. For the first time in the fight, the tiger's successor pulls himself together, and he wastes no time bragging about turning the tide, charging at Jung-woo, ready for retaliation. But he quickly realizes he's mistaken. Jung-woo concentrates his power and unleashes a kind of smoke explosion from his own body. Once again, Park Kyo is caught off guard. The spectators cover their noses and mouths, realizing the black cloud was also poisonous. The mist spreads over the entire area. The arrogant boy is once again frustrated to see his attack only empowered his opponent, and now he can barely tell where he is, until Jung-woo's voice echoes through the mist, revealing how close he is and shocking Park Kyo. He searches through the smoke, calling his opponent a coward, only to regret it immediately as he feels Jung-woo's hand on his head once more, and is slammed into the ground again, face first. Our prodigy asks about the chai absorption technique, and his aura shows he's now serious. But still lying on the ground, the poor tiger doesn't even know what that is. He barely gets to ask before another smack changes his language from Korean to Chinese. The strike is so strong he's launched again, while Jung-woo barely moves. Even enjoying himself, our protagonist isn't so easily convinced. He charges full speed at his opponent, attacking with repeated, precise blows. Unable to strike back or dodge, Park Ki-ho loses consciousness. Hajjam Wu still lands a few more hits, but a firm voice calls out, trying to put an end to it. The boy notices just in time and stops. In seconds, an explosion hits the area where the fight was taking place. The sudden blow pushes our sadist away from his opponent, but he can only think. He knows that technique. He looks toward the source, stunned. A red-haired young man appears with near-perfect posture and total indifference. Hajjam Wu is sure he recognizes that attack from a past life and just stares at the boy, coldly analyzing the redhead's blank expression, trying to figure out if he's another reincarnated one. Still unsure, he lets his guard down for a moment. If it is who he suspects, he might be in trouble. Park Ki-ho is unconscious and misses the redhead's introduction, Kyung-soo, a member of the student council. Fortunately for the tiger, the fiery-haired boy is there to defend him, claiming Hajjam Wu went too far. But he defends himself, saying he was poisoned and had to respond. He also explains that despite his condition, traces of poison remain in his body. The redhead examines him impartially and confirms it, then shifts his gaze to the unconscious boy slumped against the wall, knowing full well he's a poison user. The students watching are frustrated, still waiting for a proper conclusion. So Hajjam Wu, not wanting to disappoint, walks right past the redhead again, heading straight for Park Ki-ho's head without hesitation. Kyung-soo merely asks him to take his foot off the boy so they can talk, though he feels ignored. But the sadism strikes again as Hajjam Wu, laughing, claims he's afraid of being poisoned again. The redhead tries to counter the logicless excuse, pointing out the boy was unconscious, but doesn't work. Kyung-soo senses the brutality in Hajjam Wu and now understands why Park Ki-ho resorted to poison. He tries again to make the boy back off, this time with a threat. But that only excites the psychopath more, who gets visibly thrilled. The atmosphere around him shifts and the redhead immediately senses danger. So he changes his approach again, opting for compassion, if only the boy would stop. Hajjam Wu finally lifts his foot off the fallen tiger. Only then does Kyung-soo ask the boy's name, while the onlookers seem curious too. And Hajjam Wu introduces himself with a smirk as a freshman in the magic department. As he walks off full of swagger, the crowd parts to let him through. Kyung-soo keeps his eyes on the boy, reflecting on how different he is from his own leader. With a slight look of concern, he imagines that one day that guy might cause chaos here. Inside the academy, the hallways are much quieter now. Hajjam Wu continues walking, outraged that the black tiger could use chi absorption without even knowing what it was, but that leads him to the answer he was looking for. Meanwhile, back at the horror hotel from earlier, Park Young-cheon, leader of the Black Tiger clan, is stunned. He asks the man beside him what the hell happened there as he sees the many bodies. Nervous and sweating, the man explains that the culprit fled after draining the life energy of the entire surveillance team. The leader's brutal reaction is to leave marks, punishment for incompetence. Not even the young singular girl escaped, and now only her hollow shell remains as the boss screams for them to hunt down the culprit, who, by the way, is already making new victims. In a dark, gloomy place that looks like the hallway of another building, he holds a man like he's made of paper, and his face makes it obvious. This is definitely the reincarnation of the Blood Scholar. Back at the Singular Academy, daily student life resumes. Some students sit in the classroom waiting for the teacher, including Hajjam Wu, who has a pile of gifts in front of him, though he doesn't understand why. Two girls in the same row express admiration for the hero who beat up the crybaby. But before they can fangirl any further, another girl tries to pass by. It's Yuhara with her signature blonde hair and usual charm. She walks right past the two, ignoring their glares, sitting directly next to her childhood friend, making it clear how close they are. The other girls are not happy and start criticizing the blonde for monopolizing the class prodigy. But Yuhara isn't bothered. Instead, she smiles and tells them to stop gossiping. The girls feel personally attacked by the fact that Yuhara is a celebrity, and one of them promises to expose the princess online. Yuhara immediately stands to defend herself, but the girls are already leaving. So she sits again, only to hear Hajjam Wu agree with the girls, which makes her furious until he quickly deflects. The topic shifts to magic, and Hajjam Wu asks why she's suddenly interested. She explains it's just entertainment. In her celebrity career, she needs to stay updated or someone else might take her place. When Hajjam Wu questions her decision, since her family is rich, she cuts him off by grabbing his arm. Obviously, he's not the type who feels comfortable with that and asks her to let go, but she insists. She stares at him, recalling their childhood, when Hajjam Wu saved her from imminent danger. Her eyes remain fixed on the boy as she holds his arm. But Hajjam Wu, clearly nervous, asks what that look is for. Blushing, she gets straight to the point and says she doesn't intend to stop at kisses with her hero. But to the boy's relief and her shock, a stack of books slamming onto the desk cuts her off. Cha Yoon-jung arrives and sits on the other side of Hajjam Wu. Though the blonde is now angry, the boy ignores her and starts a conversation with the nerd, asking about the homework. The girl responds with a proud and cute smile, saying she did it. Now red as a tomato, the blonde asks Hajjam Wu via telepathy who that girl is. He casually replies and tells her how they met during the test. Yuhara moves closer to Jung Woo, almost accusatory, noticing he already memorized the nerd's name. She's more irritated than before. The two girls glare at each other over Jung Woo, and sparks practically fly in this teenage romantic drama. Jung Woo is saved by the ringing of his phone, which immediately grabs both girls' attention. He opens the messages and sees that it's his younger sister. The girl asks if her brother is free to go to the movies with her in the afternoon, but Jung Woo says he still has classes and will have to leave it for another time. In front of the cinema is the boy's younger sister with her friend, who excitedly asked about him. She is quickly disappointed when she hears that her friend's brother won't be coming, even though the girl says they can go alone. The friend tries to protest, but Soo-yeon, like her brother, is very determined and walks ahead, making her friend end up following to keep up with her. The movie takes a few hours and it's already nighttime when it ends. Soo-yeon runs toward home, already anticipating the scolding she'll get for arriving late, but she suddenly slows down on a quieter street. She senses something different nearby and becomes more alert. The little girl looks around a dark, empty street but doesn't see anything there. She's sure she heard something, but whoever is watching her is out of her line of sight. Then something else suddenly happens, startling even her observer. Soo-yeon turns to look around again, now more certain. This time, she is shocked by what she sees coming her way. She is surrounded by masked people who do not look very friendly, and she simply starts screaming like any girl her age would. That's when a cloud of smoke signals the first impact. To our surprise, it's Soo-yeon who is well prepared, defending herself with a magical barrier. The masked figures around her aren't surprised, they already knew she wasn't just any child. The clever girl warns them that the police will arrive soon, but one of the masked ones explains that no one will come because they took care of the cameras there and no one will be able to see them. One of them then warns the others not to go easy on her just because she's 13, they still need to capture her. But we're talking about Jung Woo's younger sister, and as they approach, she's the one landing the hits. The one with the Iron Man mask nearly catches the girl, but she escapes with a jump. Although she's handling things well, she complains that it's not fair while trying to flee. But the one with the Captain America mask appears behind the girl while she's distracted. With a wicked smile, he doesn't let her escape this time. Elsewhere, someone is running down a corridor. It's Jung Woo, who arrives at the emergency room and bursts through the door with determination. Worried about his younger sister, he begins calling out her name. Hajjam Wu soon finds his little one, who throws herself into his arms, frightened and asking why he took so long. He kneels down to speak with the girl but doesn't want to talk about why he was late. He wants to know what happened. Embarrassed, the girl begins to explain, pointing to the criminals who tried to kidnap her but now don't seem so threatening on the hospital stretchers. All of them are bandaged and injured, groaning in pain. Then Jung Woo asks who left them in that condition, and Soo-yeon begins to remember everything that happened. She says she was about to be captured by Captain America. She even tried to turn quickly to escape, but he was too close and she was screaming in fear, when suddenly someone struck the guy in midair and pushed him far away from her. Just like the girl, the other kidnappers didn't see where it came from. And while she tried to figure out what was happening, she heard someone call out. That's when she saw a group of men in suits, all very serious, heading toward her. One of them, concerned, apologized for his delay, but the girl didn't know him at all and even thought he was mistaking her for someone else. The criminals were still standing there but were starting to become hostile again, which didn't help since the motivation of the suited men was their own lives. Not understanding much, the idiots didn't run. They just stood there wondering how their location had been discovered. And then it was too late because the leader of the suited group gave the order to take them all down. The group charged at the masked attackers, ready for action. And it wasn't too hard to handle the masked ones, as they had greater numbers and more motivation. Without understanding a thing, Soo-yeon just watched from a distance with the group leader, astonished, when a nearly imperceptible expression of pain drew the attention of the big man. He quickly crouched down to check, panicking and frightening the girl even more. He noticed her arm was injured, and she explained it was from one of the punches that hit her. Even as she tried to calm him down, anger took over the man's face, and he could only ask himself why this had to happen. Then he stood up in rage while the girl tried to process his reaction in shock, and he was already shouting a new order to exterminate everyone, as it was a level 1 alert. While the girl was telling her brother how scared she had been through it all, he listened calmly, and she says that the masked men on the hospital stretchers must definitely be regretting it now. It's still night when they leave the hospital. Hajjam Wu waits in the parking lot with his unshakable posture. Soon, a group of men approaches. They have the men in black suits now standing in front of him. Their expressions are somewhere between fear and despair, but they all simply bow to him while the leader reports that the girl has been taken home safely. With the same intimidating gaze as always, our protagonist stares down at them. His squad, even though composed of ex-mafiosos nobody will miss, is completely terrified. The leader then speaks, offering his own life to pay for the mistake of letting the girl be in danger. But Hajjam Wu simply turns to leave, dismissing them and says the punishment will be saved for later. They all bow again, obeying his command. And before the boy even exits the building, they have already vanished, making Jung Woo focus on something else still in the parking lot. He notices something in the way and stops to observe the buildings, but he ignores it and continues on his way out, leaving the parking lot empty as if nothing had happened. Or almost, since there was still someone hiding behind one of the pillars. a terrifying silhouette with a familiar maniacal smile lurking in the dark. The next day, the routine continued as normal while a woman and several children admired the entrance to the Black Tiger clan, where several clan apprentices trained in martial arts. The children were very excited about the visit to the place. The teacher explained, even though they already knew, that this was the base of one of the 8 clans of South Korea, and one of the children asked if that was then the most powerful place in the country. But the teacher, feeling awkward, knew she couldn't take sides and only said that all the clans help in similar ways. Suddenly, a voice caught the class's attention, stating that if there were a ranking, they would certainly be at the top. It was Park Young-cheon himself, the leader of the Black Tigers, approaching with a bodyguard. The teacher felt honored by the presence of the clan leader, who still tried to remain modest. Smiling, he said he needed to come personally to see the class because those children were the future of the nation. In an instant, everyone was already surrounding the elder, praising him and eagerly asking for pictures. But nearby, watching everything, Park Sung-ho's reaction was different. The group leader from the association observed that scene with disdain, a disdain that soon turned into anger over something he seemed to know was being hidden. The unusual young man was still observing the place, now with a colleague who suggested calling even more people. He explained that drawing attention would be a terrible idea and could end up starting a war between the clans and the association. The girl then reminded her leader of one of the cases under investigation, when in a meeting 300 people mysteriously vanished. She also mentioned that the year before, passengers from 3 tourist buses disappeared after going through a tunnel. Lastly, she spoke of a hotel from which all the guests also vanished inexplicably. The young man said all of them were classified as demon-related damage, but the girl wasn't convinced, linking all of it to the Black Tiger clan. And the leader even agreed that the clan was far from innocent, which only made his colleague even more outraged. But he tried to calm things down, asking for patience since they also knew they were being investigated. He said that the previous year, the Black Tiger clan had found something ancient in a tomb, and without knowing what it was, they couldn't proceed. And while the elder played with the children, the young man made it clear that nothing could be done until they knew what was in the tomb. Now the little group was saying goodbye while the two still watched from a distance with caution. The leader also said his farewells with a warm, affectionate smile. But it quickly faded, giving way to a sour expression. He bluntly asked if Park Kivo was already back, and his bodyguard confirmed that he was. The clan's base was enormous and empty. However, in one of its rooms, Park Kivo sat on a bed, still fully bandaged, recovering from the beating he took. The clan leader entered right away, mercilessly criticizing the condition his son was in. The boy was startled by his father's sudden arrival at the place, but he quickly dropped to his knees on the floor, begging for forgiveness and promising he would bring no more shame. The grumpy old man simply tells the boy to finish what he starts next time, no matter how problematic it may be. Park Kivo trembles under his father's dark glare, and the clan leader continues with a look of disgust, judging his own son as a terrible choice for a successor. The boy can do nothing but lower his head and apologize. He remembers how he always got beaten by his father whenever he made a mistake. He remembers the look of hatred on the old man's face, who always criticized him as an heir while punishing him. On the floor in his childhood memories, he only tried to protect himself, but deep down he knew his father was right and that he needed to be stronger. After all, he wanted to be able to repay all the humiliation he suffered from his father and was determined to become more powerful for that reason. Clouds cover the sky as the rain falls and the tree leaves sway with the wind. Workers in raincoats carry a large box out of a hole while Park Young-cheon watches. Despite the rain getting in the way, the tiger leader is fierce, demanding care with the cargo. When one of his workers, frightened and careless, hurts his hand on the box, accidentally dropping it to the ground, causing total frustration for the boss. He yells in disgust at the employee, who tries to apologize and explain the mistake. While trying to close the partially open box, a coworker also scolds him. After all, everyone there knows the boss's temper. Through the gaps in the open box, it's possible to see that it was a body that made it so heavy. At home, Park Kivo is startled by something out of the ordinary. A dried-up man, like a shriveled fruit, hangs from someone's hand. Still wrapped in bandages, the mummy that rested in the coffin earlier now seems to be recovering well by absorbing life from around it. The boy isn't intimidated and actually asks if the creature was trying to escape. While the man stares back without reacting, the young man simply makes him an offer. Decided, Park Kivo says he will help him on one condition. He then asks the man to teach him the technique he's using to eliminate whoever crosses his path. A serious stare reveals that it's not what the man was expecting. But with a grin that suggests he'll enjoy himself, he seems to accept the proposal. Back in the present moment, Park Kivo observes the consequences of his actions and his injuries. But soon, a staff member interrupts his thoughts, saying he must resume training as soon as possible. The boy agrees and asks if there is any news about the academy, but finds out they've been unreachable for hours. Annoyed, he questions whether they tried all possible communication channels since there are many, but the employee assures him something will be done when possible. Park Kiho, who inherited his father's temper, immediately insults the poor guy, who can only apologize. Then a new idea seems to form in the young man's mind as he looks at his servant. He asks for his hand, causing doubt and confusion in the servant. But before he could even process it, the boss's son grabs his arm, saying they'll be quick. A brief scream rises and vanishes as a great energy is released. Park Kyo lets go of the employee's arm, and the man collapses to the floor, completely dried up. The young tiger now realizes it was all true, and his bandages are no longer needed. He feels the power of the new energy he absorbed, healing his wounds and strengthening his body. Now he knows exactly how to get revenge on his new adversary, Hajjam Wu. But suddenly he's caught off guard by a noise and tremor that seemed to come from nearby. He quickly looks around to try and see what's happening. Meanwhile, in the city, two people talk about how the clan's communications have been cut, and once confirmed, two members of the Black Squad guide civilians away, announcing a rift attack simulation. The civilians around are too happy about yet another drill, but the announcement continues, warning there will be screams and chaos, but everything will be fine. Elsewhere, Hajjam Wu gathers the remaining members of his squad. Yang Yongnik, the vice leader, whispers to his superior, who asks what's wrong. The man reveals he's so scared he can't even move. He's never seen their boss this angry. At the front of everyone, Hajjam Wu, with his sadistic and furious smile, announces that tonight is the night they will make the Black Tiger clan disappear from the planet. The Black Tiger clan's base is under attack. An armed group advances to the battlefield, leaping over rooftops like ninjas. The group's leader charges ahead at full speed, determined to put the aggressors in their place. But something hits his teammates who were coming right behind him. With quick thinking, he realizes it's an enemy ambush and immediately orders a retreat. However, several of his subordinates have already been hit and fall like flies. With ninja-like stealth, he drops down to a place where he can take cover while still scanning for his opponents. He looks around, hiding behind a wall, searching for his enemy. But a voice from behind catches him off guard. It's Hajjam Wu, standing right next to him, already warning not to get too excited just because he's alone. The ninja leader doesn't waste the opportunity and immediately attacks the boy with his katana. Hajjam Wu lights up and goes in with a kick that's blocked, but the impact still throws the ninja far away. The leader of the armed group crashes onto some wooden boards and now lies on the ground in a defensive position. He's shocked by the boy's strength, and his body still feels the tremor from the impact. But something else catches his attention even more than his opponent. Looking to the side, he sees his entire team scattered across the ground, completely defeated. He's still trying to understand what happened when Hajjam Wu starts walking toward him. The prodigy's sinister aura is back, and the group leader is terrified to realize that it was him who took down his entire team. Hajjam Wu smiles psychotically as he approaches the ninja, telling the man not to worry. Soon, that will be the fate of the entire clan. But someone interrupts, mocking him and breaking the boy's intimidating stance. A new team steps in wearing Hanya masks, and her leader seems confident that Hajjam Wu is just talking nonsense. Even the ninja leader is now frozen in place in front of the Crimson Guard, the most powerful unit in the entire clan. The guard's leader flaunts his confidence, asking if Hajjam Wu even knows what he's gotten himself into. But our protagonist remains calm and amused, revealing that this place is actually a human trafficking site. From the outside, everything looks normal in the Black Tiger clan's territory. Leaning against the wall that surrounds the mansion, the singular leader tries to get some information after noticing the communication failure. But soon, his teammate appears to ease his curiosity, informing him that the clan seems to be under attack. The boy's shock is clear. After all, it's the most powerful of the clans, and anyone going against them would have to be insane. He quickly decides to report the situation to the association, but his partner remains still. She seems to have other plans and lowers her head reluctantly, and she reveals those plans by leaping toward the site, driven by the hope of finding her missing sister, leaving her leader speechless. He finally reacts, shouting for her to come back. But an invisible electric barrier is more effective than his voice, shocking the girl as she tries to break through. She falls back to the spot she leaped from, and her worried leader immediately runs to help her. He helps her up while questioning the reason for a barrier being there. Meanwhile, inside, the warriors of the Crimson Guard are being tossed around like yo-yos as they fight against Hajjam Wu. The boy, on the other hand, remains calm, standing in place even as several enemies surround him. The enemies grow furious and prepare for a counterattack. But Hajjam Wu is entertained and compares them to moths flying toward a light that will burn them. Then suddenly, a blade of light appears in his hand. It terrifies the opponents as they recognize the power of the weapon. One of them tries to warn the others to run, but it's too late. A single strike is already coming for all of them at once. The force of the blow cuts through the boy's opponents. They aren't fast enough to defend against it. And when it's over, a spiral marks the whirlwind that cleared all of Hajjam Wu's enemies at once. One of the opponents realizes that it could only be the spectral blade and, in shock, questions how anyone besides their master could wield it. The others, still on the ground trying to stand, ask why he's doing this if they've done nothing wrong. Hajjam Wu finds it amusing that they believe there's no reason and asks if they really want to know. Desperate, the masked ones scream that of course they do, since they're about to be eliminated. The boy then says he will reveal his reason, increasing the tension in the air. All the guard members now pay close attention to him, eager to learn what grave mistake they made. Then Hajjam Wu says that all of this is happening because they tried to kidnap his sister, even if they failed. The warriors are clearly confused by the information, Their leader in turn defends himself, saying that this isn't the kind of thing they do and that they only punish those who deserve it. That statement makes the boy glare coldly at him. And with a touch of arrogance, he asks if they really believe they deserve human rights, considering they walk around armed, leaving the opponents speechless, but someone agrees with his statement from behind them. Park Kido appears, fully recovered, shocking even his own subordinates. A member of the guard tries to warn him to stay back, but Kido is focused. With his hand on the warrior's arm, the young master questions him, making the man nervous. And to show they shouldn't worry, he activates his chi absorption technique again, draining all the strength from his ally. Another member of the guard gasps and asks what that is, but Park Kido focuses only on the power. His desire to become more powerful rises with a smile as he absorbs the ally's life energy. It doesn't take long before several Crimson Guard warriors are lying on the ground looking like dried raisins. But the young man doesn't stop. He grabs the next one in line to absorb. As his life is drained by the master, the man begs to be spared, but Park Kido is out of control. The team leader watches his subordinate being drained and tries to get the boy's attention, but realizing it would be pointless, he is left in shock by the situation. His only option becomes attacking his own superior without hesitation. Park Kido feels the impact of the strike, but now it's no longer enough to cause any damage. He's merely pushed back. Seeing that the young man has paused, the team leader tries to reason with him, asking indignantly what he's doing. Hajjam Wu is still there, observing when the tiger successor assumes a similar posture to answer the man. With an arrogant smile, he says he's just ensuring the Crimson Guard fulfills its role. Shock and surprise take over the masked leader's expression as he tries to understand what Kido meant by its role. Then he remembers his induction into the team when he solemnly swore to protect the clan. He and his team all swore and offered their lives in service of the clan's protection. The mansion wasn't much different from how it is now. But back then, the young master was still a frightened boy in a corner of the dojo. The man approached to ask if everything was okay. But clearly, little Kido was not okay. He was bruised and battered. Trying to be supportive, he even tried to cheer the boy up, explaining that the clan leader only pressured him like that because he wanted him to grow strong. But the boy questioned if that was even possible, since he trained every day and was never good enough, leaving the young warrior speechless but still concerned. He then decided to change his approach, offering to teach martial arts during the next training session. And finally, he got the boy to lift his head and look in his direction. With a sincere smile, he said he would do it so that little Kido would one day become a strong leader. The boy, who wasn't used to affection, immediately hugged him, and then declared that he would become that strong leader. Crying, little Kido kept hugging the man, promising to grow stronger and asking for his help. He remembers that moment when the boy hugged him, as if it had just happened. But now he trembles before what that boy has become. Lifted by the neck, the leader of the Crimson Guard acknowledges his role even in fear, once again offering his life to protect the clan with nobility. But to Park Kido, there's nothing noble about it. The guard exists only for the benefit of the clan, and viewing the man as nothing more than a slave, he begins draining his life force without hesitation. Quickly, the team leader, once strong and imposing, begins to look like a shriveled plum. But even in his final moments, he still tries to protect his master by warning that the enemy is very powerful. Park Kido finishes the chi absorption, leaving behind only a dry husk, which he discards on the ground without mercy, even as he acknowledges how much he needed the man's strength. Finally, the boy's attention turns to his opponent, who is still waiting, and he wonders if he should thank him for the time he had to grow stronger. But Hajjam Wu replies that he too is grateful, because now he only has to deal with one, not many, then asks again how Kido learned that technique. The answer comes in the form of a punch to the stomach, as the clan's successor owes no explanations to his enemy. Hajjam Wu watches his opponent's movements with surprise, realizing his strength has grown. Suddenly, a series of successive blows come at him, but he defends against them all. Until finally a punch breaks through his guard as Park Kido declares that today is the day he teaches him a lesson. Inside the Black Tiger clan's base, screams and complaints echo through the air. The leader of the Black Squad, along with his vice leader, are also fighting off an entire team of ninjas. While they manage to hold the ninja group at bay, the captain asks how long they'll have to stay there. The vice leader quickly replies that they need to hold them off until Hajjam Wu wipes out the clan. Though indifferent, the vice tries to encourage his captain, saying they just have to hold on. And as the conversation ends, he lands another hit on an enemy, throwing him so hard that only a wall stops him. To both their surprise, the attacks suddenly stop. Everyone is already down, so they agree that the job seems to be done. But before they can decide what to do next, they're caught off guard by a scream of rage. And before they can even see who it is, one of them is struck at high speed. It's the clan leader's bodyguard, charging through like a freight train, slamming Kang, the squad leader, straight into a wall. And before the vice leader can react, he's also caught off guard by a precise blow. He crashes into another wall with such force that the impact leaves a new pattern of cracks. Trying to figure out the source of such strength and rage, he looks up, only to have his vision blocked by a foot pressing down on his head, leaving its mark in the wall. It's the Black Tiger clan's leader himself, stomping down his opponents and demanding to know who they think they are. The The old man is absolutely furious, especially since he doesn't even know who the invaders are or where they came from. The bodyguard explains that they're still trying to find out, but the barrier is making it difficult. The old tiger decides to fall back on the traditional method of getting answers, violently, out of sheer impatience. And to everyone's surprise, the vice leader of the squad talks almost immediately, revealing they're from the Diamond Gate, the Golden River clan. Naturally, the old man is incredulous at this claim. The bodyguard tries a quick analysis, saying it must be a trick. No one would confess that easily. But the man in the black suit gives a better answer as he tries to free himself from under the foot, saying he's confessing because soon they'll all be dead anyway. That level of certainty only makes the Tiger clan's leader angrier. Now bloodlust is in his eyes. But before he can do anything, a loud crash from the wall behind him grabs his attention. He sees someone crash through the wall and fall at his feet. To the shock and horror of the black squad leaders, it's Hajjam Wu, wounded and unconscious. The despair on their faces after thinking they had victory in the bag is almost more pitiful than his condition. A sight rarely seen, our protagonist lies on the ground, covered in debris and seemingly out cold. The clan leader is stunned, trying to understand where the fallen boy came from. But the answer arrives quickly. Park Kino steps through the hole in the wall, radiating an aura of rage and vengeance. Even his father can't believe it. He has to call his name to be sure. He's in shock because he recognizes the energy now coming from his son. Kiko, meanwhile, is quite taken with his new, imposing form. He even rubs it in, pointing out that he was the one who harnessed the power of the monster his father had so desperately wanted to unearth. But the old man immediately switches to his usual fury, yelling that his son is an idiot. He was supposed to use the monster, not become one. Full of power and arrogance, the boy simply tells his father to go to hell. To prove he doesn't care, he grabs his father's bodyguard by the jacket. And in the blink of an eye, the guard becomes just another energy source as the clan head watches. The boy seems to be in ecstasy from all that energy, even saying it tastes delicious, far more than he expected, which enrages his father even more while Kito keeps smiling. The clan leader, now utterly livid, disowns Kito on the spot, declaring that he became a monster the moment he learned that technique. But the boy isn't as shaken as expected. After all, he grew up hearing that he wasn't truly his son because he was weak. So he asks his father, which is worse, having a weak son or a strong one who's a monster? The old man is left speechless. After all, it wasn't a lie. Marching forward with arrogance, Kito even suggests his father retire since he'll be the leader from now on. The Tiger clan leader scowls instantly, calling his son arrogant. Meanwhile, the successor, with a wicked grin, offers him a fair fight, since he was always taught the strongest takes everything. The old man trembles, and it's unclear whether it's from fear, hatred, or bitterness. That's when both are interrupted by a third voice in the room, telling them to stop with the threats. Hajjam Wu, now conscious and sitting up, watches the family drama like it's front row at a play, and even jokes that they should just duke it out already. Park Kito is genuinely stunned by his opponent's resilience. But our prodigy mocks his surprise, pointing out that not even his subordinates have been eliminated yet. The young tiger hair doesn't believe it. The members of the Black Squad are lying on the ground, beaten and unconscious, until Hajjam Wu simply orders them to get up. To the total shock of both father and son, the men who appeared to be down for good suddenly rise like nothing happened. Hajjam Wu then commands them to leave and tend to the external barriers. Once again, with extreme speed, the two vanish from the scene to carry out the order. Now feeling more at ease without interruptions, Hajjam Wu begins to speak. But before he finishes his sentence, he notices the Tiger clan leader rushing toward him. The lightning-fast blow is unstoppable, and the impact sends the young man flying, crashing through yet another wall. Still in the air, though, he summons his spectral sword and prepares to land gracefully. He just didn't expect his enemy to be waiting right behind him. The old man blames him for his son's fall, but all Hajjam Wu sees is a blur, as the Black Tiger's roar slams into him, smashing our prodigy to the ground. Hajjam Wu manages to cushion the impact barely. He's still processing what just happened, sure the man had been in front of him. Then suddenly, he senses another attack from behind, coming at high speed. The tiger's lunge hits him dead on. This time, there's no escape. All he can do is scream. As if that weren't enough, the old man follows with yet another series of blows. Hajjam Wu narrowly dodges the rest. That's when he realizes his opponent can move through space using an enchantment. But Park Young-cheon doesn't care if the boy figured it out. His rift-core eyes still burn with resolve. He stares at Hajjam Wu like prey to be hunted, then unleashes the Black Tiger's explosion directly at him while he's still midair. But our protagonist isn't just anyone. He has tricks too. He counters the blast. He admits he's impressed by the opponent's technique, but says he's still nowhere near his level, driving his spectral sword into the ground. The young man activates it, causing fractures and ruptures in the earth toward his opponent. Startled, Park Young-cheon jumps back, trying to escape. He's stunned that the boy can wield such a weapon. His eyes lock onto a motion that deeply worries him. Hajjam Wu spins the blade, unleashing the whirlwind slash precisely aimed. The destruction is on a whole other scale, far worse than just breaking through walls. The old tiger can't believe he had to defend with his own magical sword. He wonders in disbelief just how much power this boy has, even being so young. Landing on a rooftop that somehow withstood the impact, he tries to gain momentum. But a new explosion hits his position dead-on, forcing him to dodge again. At the epicenter of destruction, Hajjam Wu stands with his blade, making any approach impossible. Yet the young man knows the old man still isn't fighting at full power. The game changes when suddenly, he feels arms wrap around his neck. He's caught. The clan leader shouts his son's name, as if knowing something terrible is about to happen. But Kiro feels completely in control, ready to play his trump card by draining his rival's energy. A massive concentration of energy begins swirling around them as the successor begins the drain. Hajjam Wu is in serious trouble, veins bulging as his life force is pulled away. Meanwhile, Park Kiro is more confident than ever, reveling in the chai he's absorbing. And it truly seems there's nothing the prodigy could possibly do now to escape. But in his final moments, he remembers something. He seems to feel more pain from having to play his hand than from the attack he is suffering. Kiho is so focused on absorbing all that energy that he can only wonder who Hajjam Wu is to be so powerful, which makes him slow to notice. But he feels something different. The chai flow reverses and Park Kiho realizes that the tables have turned, but is already too late. His father tries to run toward him as if he could do something to stop fate. But Hajjam Wu warns that it's already too late for him. With a devilish smile, our protagonist no longer seems to be suffering as before, and in a few seconds, the young successor becomes as dry as all the corpses he had left along the way. The father is still in disbelief and unresponsive upon seeing his son in that state. Hajjam Wu says that after all of his reincarnations, it was obvious he would have learned the technique and had only refrained from using it before so as not to stoop so low. Finally bidding farewell to his rival, who falls like a dry leaf to the ground while all his father can do is watch, now consumed by a new level of hatred and resentment. Park Young-cheon trembles, quickly beginning to run again, now toward his enemy, ready to eliminate him if he cannot save his son. But Hajjam Wu is prepared for the charge and even mocks, asking if he has ever seen a dead person come back to life. A new explosion can be seen from kilometers away. The old man was hit, and the damage makes him cough up blood. Wounded from head to toe, he still stops and questions who that monster is he's fighting, asking the reason for the extermination of his clan in such a manner. But before receiving an answer, he only feels Hajjam Wu's spectral blade pierce through him. The young man finally seems more satisfied, but still complains about all the talking, eliminating his opponent once and for all to hold him accountable for his actions. He spins his sword to clean it of the remnants of the battle, and realizes that now everything is over as he looks around and sees no one else. Only then does he stop and analyze that he should have found out more about how Kyo learned the chai absorption technique. And looking at the leader of the clan he had just defeated, he sees that the Rith core was now revealed over the body. Suddenly everything makes sense, because only with that energy could the tiger have done all that. Hajjam Wu can only think about how his clan still needs to evolve in gathering information, since he knew nothing of this. While reflecting on whether the other clan leaders also possess such power, something catches his attention. In a leap, he heads swiftly to where something was detected. It was another young man hiding nearby, watching everything like a spectator. He tries to flee while striking blows at Hajjam Wu. But this only helps our prodigy quickly figure out who this meddler is, defending himself masterfully. The protagonist's posture is impeccable. The boy is startled to see that, in addition to defending, Hajjam Wu's sword is already embedded right beside his face. He tries to pressure the intruder for information, but the boy says he is known. Hajjam Wu, however, denies it, since he wasn't using the Black Tiger clan's style, but rather the Pangs. Now desperate, the boy explains that he is the third heir of Haba Pang and was just a guest, trying to use threats to get out of trouble. But threats don't work very well against our protagonist, who approaches, and widening his smile becomes even more intimidating. Already taking the opportunity to mention that the Habutpeng family's history wasn't very good, since they were always destroyed before they could rise again. However, an idea makes him step away from the boy, saying that in the end, he was already targeting his family and could now use him as the scapegoat for the massacre. The boy firmly protests, saying he was there precisely on a peace mission, giving Hajjam Wu no other choice but to use his intimidating smile to control the situation. Frightened, the boy, who values his life, obviously agrees to the terms. And while screaming for his life, Hajjam Wu throws a pill directly into his mouth. He makes it very clear that the boy should swallow it and follow his orders from then on if he wants to live. Reluctant and unaware of what he just took, the young man only asks what kind of thing he'll have to do. And with the greatest naturality in the world, Hajjam Wu explains that he is now a puppet. The young man shouts for the leader of his squad to come train the new recruit, and suddenly, a strike hits the boy's neck squarely, making him fall to the side. It is Kang Ta-san who appears to obey his master's orders and take the new squad member for training. Now addressing the rest of the squad, Hajjam Wu gives his orders to imitate the Habutpeng style, leaving traces on all the bodies around the place. The smoke from the explosions caused in the clash still disperses through the area. The bodies of the leader and his successor lie on the ground where they were dropped after being eliminated. Next to the clan leader's body still lies the rift core he used, but not for long as someone soon finds it. The bloodthirsty monster that the leader himself had revived now holds the power in his hands, and he quickly begins to absorb it directly from the stone. The energy is so great that even he seems to suffer to absorb it all, bending over with a scream of agony, but refusing to give up all that power. And in an instant it ends while his body still trembles from so much energy. Slowly he rises with a laugh of satisfaction, and with a demonic smile he knows that his power is finally complete, making him the embodiment of the blood spirit. In the city, the night seemed as peaceful as any other, and while a couple slept deeply, their son tried to enter the house without making a sound. Carefully, Hajjam Wu closes the door, avoiding any noise. He can only think how it was easier to wipe out an entire clan than to enter the house without waking his parents. But someone else had noticed. To his surprise, Sunyan was in his room with many questions. Hajjam Wu asks what the girl is doing there instead of sleeping, and she says she was waiting. Already taking off his dirty clothes, the boy thanks his sister for the concern, but says they'll talk later since it's so late. But Sunyan doesn't fall for it and presses her brother again about where he was. And although he doesn't even consider telling the truth, he's actually enjoying himself. So he decides to play along and asks if all that is worry or desperation. The girl takes offense easily and insists she's just worried like their mom always is. Hajjam Wu waves 2 bills to help her rethink, and the girl freezes. Now feeling even more offended, she reminds her brother that she was nearly kidnapped. How could she not be worried? But the boy increases the amount of money, making her question if he doubted her morals so much and threatening to tell everything to their mom. He then raises his offer to 500,000 won, stunning his younger sister. She stares at the money, rethinking the value, and Hajjam Wu waves the bills, trying to convince her to take them and watch as many movies as she wants. As expected, the money disappears from his hand in an instant, but the girl swears she won't ask any more questions, only because she doesn't want to see him get into trouble. Either way, the girl just says thanks while her brother plays the overly confident role when he offers her a bodyguard. On the other hand, she's shocked. Remembering everything that happened with the masked men, she processes the information, quickly coming to the conclusion that she's better off defending herself, especially since she's training the technique she learned from her brother. Not giving Hajjam Wu much time for excuses, she launches into a demonstration, which surprises the boy with the blow he has to defend. But he doesn't back down, showing that he managed to defend and snatch the bills the girl used. Then something catches him off guard. Suddenly, several new blows come at him, forcing him to defend quickly, and of course, use his monetary strategy. There were so many consecutive strikes that Hajjam Wu already recovered more than half the bills he gave his sister, and she still seems ready for more attacks with the rest. Despite his unshakable posture inside, Hajjam Wu feels quite proud and knows his sister really can defend herself now, so he gives the money back, asking her to keep practicing. The girl picks up her bills and heads out of the room, frustrated with her brother who never praises her, slamming the door with no caution at all, unlike her brother, which leads Hajjam Wu to wonder how dealing with his little sister can be harder than exterminating a clan. Finally, our protagonist has a moment of peace and throws himself onto the bed. But his mind is still working as he calculates one less problem now that the black tigers are gone. As sleep begins to set in, intense memories emerge, forcing the boy to sit up suddenly, trying to shake off the painful memories. He presses his head as if that could block his thoughts. But inevitably, he remembers an encounter from a past life, when a girl, upon introducing herself, offered him food in case he was hungry. Annoyed, he asked if the roast was poisoned. To prove it wasn't poisoned, the girl herself took the first bite, praising his caution. But Hajjam Wu's logic was perfect, since they were in a training field where only 3 of them would survive. Unexpectedly, the girl made him a proposal, inviting him to become her subordinate. The surprise left the boy confused and somewhat annoyed. With her serene smile, the girl explained, convinced that she would unite the Mirim and therefore needed a right hand, offering marriage as the second option. Mocking the girl, he asked if she wanted to be his queen. After all, conquering the Mirim had been his goal long before it was her dream. But that wasn't what fate had planned for the 2 of them, and sometime later, they encountered Muno. The blood scholar threatened the boy by using his partner as a hostage to make him surrender, and clearly the Hajjam Wu of that time faced a great dilemma. As he watched his beloved companion being wounded by one of his worst enemies, Hajjam Wu was truly disturbed by these memories, concluding that Kiho's Qi absorption must be directly related to Muno. The night advanced, and the Black Tiger clan gate was now under observation. The bodies scattered across the perimeter were being examined. A blonde-haired young man with a familiar aura was there, analyzing the scene. The singular squad leader was also present and informed that the investigations had already begun and they would soon discover the responsible clan. But the blonde declared with conviction that only one person was responsible, causing surprise and shock in the young singular officer. The young man reaffirmed with a striking look that the situation was caused by only one person, adding that a demon was still out there. While some rest during the night, there's movement in the forest. The Black Squad is doing its job following Hajjam Wu's orders, The vice leader of the group instructs them to search every corner of the perimeter. Meanwhile, Leader Tasan complains about having to carry the new recruit to train him on the mission. This triggers the fury of his teammate, who is incredulous at the complaint. After all, those were orders. The captain collects himself, blaming his mental confusion on overwork, while the vice leader remains focused on the forest, where they need to find a unique presence. A sudden tremor draws the attention of the group members. They look around, trying to figure out where the strange event came from in the nearby city. A siren sounds, warning that something terrible is happening. An urgent announcement asks civilians to leave the city immediately due to the opening of a level 3 rift. Everyone panics and flees, running in desperation. Even the leader of the Black Squad is shaken by the rift's power, but his colleague remains firm about the orders they must follow to stay alive. So they attempt to speed up the search with more effort and urgency, delving deeper into the forest in search of the strongest creature there. However, the second-in-command instructs that if this is the level 3 rift demon, they must not engage, only analyze its attributes and retreat. As they move forward, the members notice a large fire approaching. The fire, which had already consumed much of the trees, prevents them from proceeding. But from where they stop, they could already see the cause. A demon made of rock and lava, terrifying enough to scare any sane person. Having quickly taken cover, the leaders observe the monster. From a safe distance, they realize there is no escape, shocked by the sight of something they had never seen before. And while talking, they end up drawing the demon's attention with their chatter. The danger sensor triggers immediately. As anyone would, the only reaction of the two is to run for the hills, each fleeing in a different direction. As soon as they flee, a massive fireball hits the exact spot where they had been hiding. The second-in-command quickly imagines the worst-case scenario upon seeing the destruction caused by the attack. By wasting time imagining, he doesn't even realize he's in the worst situation himself. A circle of fire surrounds him, and he instinctively tries only to shield himself. His leader, who is nearby but not close enough, doesn't know whether to attempt to rescue or stay back. Realizing his fate, the man in the suit begins to despair. He didn't expect to become barbecue before paying for his crimes, and he closes his eyes tightly, thinking he just didn't want to die like that. But nothing happens to his body. In fact, he realizes the temperature has dropped and he's still alive. The fire is gone, and his teammate points in shock to the reason. Someone completely insane was holding the demon with his bare hand. It was Moonil, lifting the monster by the neck with his usual maniacal smile, calmly asking if it was really that powerful as he stared at it excitedly. The roar of the llama creature seems like a convincing enough response. However, it turns into another type of growl as the monster begins to tremble. The bloodthirsty maniac starts draining its energy, making even a demon like that howl in agony. The men still present can barely stay on their feet under the immense energy. Suddenly, everything vanishes, and all that remains of the monster is a pile of stones and dry soil dissipating into the air. The members of the Black Squad are stunned by the scene they just witnessed. Their reaction is so intense that they become the maniac's new target, who now stares at them. Even more desperate than before, the leader shouts to his partner that they are exposed. Knowing there's no escape, they charge at the man with speed, who makes no sudden movements beyond revealing that he knows they reach the immortal spirit. The shot paralyzes the two mid-charge, only able to ask how he could know. Moonil's smile, lit by pure malice, reappears as he confirms that his target has reincarnated. The next day, a meeting between representatives of the 7 remaining clans is announced at the base of the Celestial Peace Clan. Journalists from around the world watch closely as each representative arrives, starting with the leader of the Hajjam clan, with his long, white beard and Tibetan monk attire. The cameras roll non-stop, moving to the next leader who arrives with his subordinates. The muscular man in a long coat and stylish hairdo, bearing a serious expression, is the leader of the Gamsaman clan. Before the reporter can look for the next leader, the team is surprised. Lee Hobuk, our favorite brute, arrives with full energy but regrets not dressing better. Lowering his voice for a moment, the clan leader warns his vice not to do anything rash, which irritates Hajjam Wu. Hobuk, excited, tells the young man not to worry. He could defeat everyone there anyway, though he's still the one blamed for the fall of the Black Tigers, so he's under scrutiny. Hajjam Wu quickly responds that he's not in a good mood, having lost contact with his squad. He seems worried, as if sensing something bad happened, and says he needs to find them as soon as possible. His leader is understanding, but asks him to focus on the meeting, especially on the leader of the Celestial Peace Clan. Suddenly, a voice surprises them by asking why anyone should be cautious around her father. Hajjam Wu immediately recognizes Chi Yun-jung, his classmate. Annoyed by the nerd's presence, the boy asks why she's there while Hobuk simply watches. Before the girl can reply, a blonde man with a goatee wearing a sharp red suit interrupts them. The blonde with the goatee, full of presence, is Che Mincheol, leader of the Celestial Peace Clan. And his daughter, the nerd Chi Yun-jung, explains to him that she's the boy's classmate. Not understanding the student's relation to the meeting, he asks if the boy is the Diamond Gate heir, but his daughter explains that he's actually the vice leader of a clan. Hobuk doesn't miss a beat, and realizing the girl is the magic prodigy, already offers his son in marriage. But Che Mincheol cuts in, mocking the brute with an amused smile. Leader Lee replies with the same excitement. implying that the man with the goatee is a sly one. The tension and excitement between them are clear, hinting at shared history as they discuss where they might face off. The journalist, noticing the exchange, tries to get closer for more information, only to be blocked by a guard. This shifts the leader's focus, and they choose to head into the meeting room to avoid the buzz. Min Cheol leads the way, followed by Lee Hobik and his vice, Hajjam Wu. The nerd wastes no time and resumes talking with Jung Woo, who admits he's surprised to see her there, and even more to find out she knew more than just magic. Before moving on with her father, the girl explains that magic is what allowed her to be there and learn her clan's techniques. She ends the conversation upon entering, welcoming him to her home with a sincere smile. Outside, the young singular investigator watches the meeting venue where journalists and security wait. He is reflective, remembering the conversation from the previous night with the mysterious blonde man. From the branch of a tree, he analyzes the situation while reporters prepare for upcoming interviews. The young man recalls that besides the Black Tiger clan attack, there was also a level 3 rift opening the previous night. But mysteriously, the demon vanished. Central Command even had to cover up the information, claiming it was a false alarm, but he knew the massacre was connected to the demon's disappearance. He stares at the meeting site as if he could figure out who among them was responsible for both events. But he grows frustrated and gives up after burning through so many brain cells. The young man mutters to himself, complaining about the lack of intel from his mysterious contact who never reveals anything. Overcoming the frustration, the young singular decides to do everything he can to uncover the truth on his own. In the meeting room, all the clan leaders are seated around a table discussing formalities. The Tibetan monk leader proves to be less patient than he seemed, complaining about all the stalling. Meanwhile, the stylish buff guy doesn't like the idea of rushing and calls the old monk a fool. This sparks clear tension between the two as they argue over whether the meeting is dragging on or not. The monk finally loses his temper and drops a bombshell, accusing the Habapang group and demanding fierce justice. But the stylish leader fires back in the same tone, reminding him of the danger of provoking the Habapang, rising and slamming the table. He warns that the whole country could suffer, as the group has backing from the Chinese government. The imposing leader Min Cheol, with his usual calmness, asks everyone to settle down since they're not there to fight, prompting the Hatha to sit down again and admit he overreacted. Honik watches the situation in silence without saying a word, as Min Cheol continues, explaining that from his assessment, the evidence is still too vague. The old monk, now calmer, asks his colleague if it's possible someone is intentionally trying to spark a conflict with the Chinese government. The Celestial Peace leader neither confirms nor denies it, simply saying no one present would be capable of wiping out an entire clan that quickly. He then passes the floor to Lee Hobik, requesting his opinion since he had been silent for so long it was starting to bother everyone. Gaining the monk's support, lacking brains despite his muscle mass, Leader Lee simply says the Black Tiger clan fell because they were weak. Not even Min Cheol expected that, left dumbfounded by the brute's simplistic statement. The old man beside him silently judges his brutality and lack of tact. Feeling personally attacked by the glares around him, Hobik questions by the reaction. The host deflects, preferring to avoid further comments. So the brute just stands up, declaring the meeting over since there's nothing left to say. The Celestial Peace leader agrees to end the meeting, saying only that they'll do what is most beneficial for everyone involved. As the meeting wraps up in the conference room, a conversation continues outside in a garden gazebo. Chai Yun-jum appears shy but mentions that the meeting will likely take a while. Suddenly, her shyness disappears as she decides to fetch a cake she baked earlier, leaving Jung-woo confused. She asks if he'd like some cake and he says he does, which prompts her to dash off to get the snack before he can say another word. Now alone, Jung-woo appears incredulous about the situation, though it's not exactly absurd. But his thoughts quickly shift from the girl back to his plans, which remain unchanged. At that moment, he remembers one of his key pieces, the Black Squad, currently missing but never to be underestimated. While lost in thought, his phone rings, snapping him back to reality. He answers with a glimmer of hope, which quickly turns into panic as he asks if they've been found. In a forest, a shallow pit reveals traces of battle. Jung-woo and his assistant Kim stand silently, analyzing the site where the squad had fought their last battle before vanishing. But to Jung-woo, who examines it coldly, this wasn't a battlefield. It was as if he could still feel the energy of those who had been there and the techniques they used. He could tell the Black Squad had no chance against their opponent. His assistant is stunned by the statement and asks if he's sure. But Jung-woo rushes off in another direction without even answering. He finally arrives at his destination like a bloodhound halting at the scent, and there he finds a scene of pure devastation surrounding all his subordinates, withered and shriveled like mummies on the ground. Breathless, Assistant Kim finally catches up and asks what happened. And the answer is right in front of him, though even seeing it, he can't believe it. The obvious is then confirmed by the man in the suit, who screams in despair upon seeing the mummified squad on the ground. In a scream that blends rage and desperation, Hajjam Wu calls out to his squad. Shouting at the top of his lungs, he demands to know how much longer they plan to lie there embarrassing themselves doing raisin cosplay. The squad reacts to their master's voice, and soon all of them begin to open their eyes. They rise slowly like a horde of zombies waking and crawling from their graves. Apparently, Mr. Kim wasn't aware of this ability, which shocks him as he watches the dead walking toward him. With a proud smile, Hajjam Wu explains that they don't die while under the effect of the immortal spirit technique. Back at Diamond Gate Base, the day seems even brighter. Still recovering, the men try to identify their attacker for their chief. The vice leader still trembles, recalling the power of that man, despite never having heard of him. Hajjam Wu stares at the sketch, stunned, already suspecting what it was, and immediately criticizes Kang Tasan's drawing, which looked more like a shaky doodle. The boy demands the pencil with a superior tone and little patience. As he draws, his follower watches to learn. Then the boy reveals a perfectly realistic portrait of the one he knew in another life as the Blood Scholar. The squad leaders are amazed at the detailed accuracy, clearly identifying the one who attacked them. But Hajjam Wu isn't surprised. In fact, he flashes back to his old friend lying on the ground, as he himself attacked Moonil with full fury, reducing him to pieces with his sharp blade. He could have sworn that was the end of Moonil's life, since he was the one who ended it. The zombie-like squad members still study the drawing slowly, struggling due to their weak state, while Hajjam Wu tries to make sense of everything. He even shivers remembering the technique of the blood spirit personification. But recalling Moonil's vengeful, sinister smile, he knows the biggest issue isn't that. It's that Moonil has undoubtedly discovered him. Imagining how the Blood Scholar drained but didn't kill his squad, Hajjam Wu concludes that the enemy now knows he's reincarnated, and he can only wonder if he's the target now. Hajjam Wu is extremely anxious after all. The enemy is far too quiet and patient compared to what he remembers. Elsewhere in the forest, as night begins to fall, the bloodthirsty maniac himself is fleeing from a team of singulars. They seem determined, yet completely unaware of their target's true power. But the man just wants to get out of there, evading all attacks, at least until he grows tired of the cat and mouse game and decides to take action to get rid of them. With just a snap of his fingers, one of the singular's energy vanishes completely. The tide turns, and now the rest of the team decides to scatter and defend while Moonil continues on his path. His wicked smile reveals that his patience has run out, and he doesn't need much to end the game. He simply stretches out his hand and closes it as if gripping the energy around his fist. Instantly, all members of the singular team chasing him begin to succumb to chi absorption. They drop to the ground like dried plums, one by one. But Moonil watches the outcome of his own power with excitement. So proud, however, he doesn't notice that an attack comes by surprise as one singular tries to strike him with a sword. It's the team's commander, the one Moonil nearly wiped out, and he's absolutely furious, almost landing a blow that the maniac dodges by a hair. Moonil lights up, asking if he's truly the group's commander, and the one-eyed old man introduces himself as Park Han-dong, commander of the 12th Battalion of the Association. The maniac decides to reveal his identity too, introducing himself simply as Siu Moonil. The commander begins his interrogation right there, demanding to know where Moonil comes from and who his superiors are. But the man is completely unaware of modern reality and doesn't know what a government or clan is. Not believing the lunatic's ignorance, the singular leader charges forward, ready to extract the truth by force. Siu Moonil aims an attack again, snapping his fingers for the one-eyed man. But he misses the commander's blind spot, allowing him to dodge and close the gap rapidly. Annoyed, the Blood Scholar watches his opponent approach more than expected. Finally, using direct contact for the first time, he grabs the head of the still confident opponent. The bloodthirsty man is ready to drain more chi with his technique, but his opponent seems to have a trick up his sleeve. He uses his disassemble technique, dissolving right in Moonil's hands, completely surprising him. He even laughs, finding the man's technique very interesting. But his curiosity quickly turns to alarm as he notices something else. He hadn't just disassembled, he was now reassembling too close for comfort. And in a treacherous strike, the singular commander reforms with his sword, piercing the maniac from behind, demanding answers. Once again, Moonil gives only his name, but the man isn't satisfied and demands more information. So Moonil asks for patience, promising that soon everyone will know who he is. Once he conquers the Murim, confused, the one-eyed commander brushes off the nonsense, not even knowing what Murim is. But the psychopath, still holding the sword that pierces him, is determined, claiming he will restore it. Now completely bewildered, the commander questions him again, thinking he's losing his mind. However, before he can act, he goes into shock. In just a few seconds, his energy is drained directly by the Blood Scholar, and he collapses to the ground like all of his subordinates, already drained. With a smile on his face, the maniac turns to someone else, asking the opinion of the young man who had already noticed his approach. But Jin Gangbak, the mysterious blonde, did not look pleased. A storm brews, thick dark clouds gathering above. A figure can be seen floating among lightning and thunder. The embodiment of death, with a flaming red skull and a scythe, hovers imposingly when a blue dragon roars and bursts forth from the storm clouds. The two creatures face off, and an epic battle begins, full of roars and growls. Death evades the dragon's claws and slashes the beast with its scythe, cutting along its long body. The pain makes the dragon let out a wild, desperate roar, which startles Hajjam Wu awake from his metaphorical dream. He sits up suddenly, then closes his eyes again, trying to capture every detail. Soon understanding the context and the revelation he just received, he rises and moves with determination, stepping out onto the balcony, climbing the railing, fully intent on heading to his destination. Without hesitation, the boy leaps toward his goal, leaving a crater in the ground where he landed from several stories up. But he doesn't care, using the impact to launch himself forward at top speed toward his objective. The night wears on and dawn approaches. Still in his pajamas, Hajjam Wu stands in stunned silence. The boy stares at the traces of a massive battlefield where a fight recently took place. Knowing exactly what that means, he is filled with concern. The city is still trying to adjust to the fall of the Black Tiger clan, which disrupted the entire command chain in the region. The Diamond Gate, being the nearest power, has become the new authority. In a restricted room, a meeting is underway. An elderly man and woman from the clan administration inform the leader and Secretary Kim of two associations requesting protection. Lee Hoguk, clearly bored, suggests rejecting both petitions. But the bald man and the elderly lady are horrified and begin scolding him, reminding their leader that he's now responsible for the Black Tiger's former territory. Secretary Kim, overwhelmed by the chatter, yells at them to stop talking. He asks the leader himself to order the two to be quiet, calling them old foxes. The two are shocked and offended by the name-calling. Even leader Lee is stunned by the secretary's behavior. But Kim doesn't stop. He now criticizes Hoguk himself, accusing him of blind ambition, earning a scolding from his boss. Yet the secretary refuses to back down, calling himself someone with a strong personality. Everyone in the room is utterly confused by the situation. Lee Hoguk even wonders aloud if the man ate something rotten. Eventually, the assistant regains composure and, now speaking seriously, explains they have double the workload with less than half the personnel. The bald man and the elderly woman agree, thinking that was obvious. But Kim shouts that this is why he's so stressed, because he's the one stuck solving everything alone. The chief asks if things hadn't recently improved, thinking they were making progress. Still furious, the secretary reminds the leader that on top of everything, he also promised to avenge the Black Tiger clan, which brings a proud look to the brute's face as he loudly declares his loyalty. But his assistant remains unconvinced and questions his values, putting Hoguk on the defensive. With some hesitation, Mr. Kim asks if the clan really intends to face the Habapang, to which his boss arrogantly replies that his clan is unbeatable. Once again, the assistant feels the need to explain things to the brute, who seems unaware of just how powerful the Habapang truly are, since they are a guild. For the first time during the meeting, the clan leader actually seems to pause and reflect. But instead of offering an opinion, he simply wonders aloud where his vice leader is, since it's always him who resolves everything. You can hear him questioning Hajjam Wu's absence even from outside the base. Kim calmly informs him that not only is the boy not present, but he also hasn't responded to any attempts at contact. Lee Hoguk wonders if this might still be connected to the incident with the Black Squad. Far from there, Hajjam Wu sits alone at a table in a cafe. Lost in thought, he hides his face as if in contemplation. But in truth, his expression borders on psychotic as he dwells on the reincarnation of his eternal rival. He knows that the explosion mark he saw earlier could only have been caused by him, likely in a confrontation with Munil himself. He recalls his dream, interpreting it as a sign that the two have already fought. But as excited as he is, he's equally worried, realizing he's been off guard for far too long. Suddenly, someone rudely interrupts his thoughts, demanding that he leave. Two large, intimidating guards order the boy to vacate the premises, which had been reserved for their master. Still seated, Hajjam Wu calmly asks who this supposed young master might be. The guards answer on behalf of Pang Duxian, heir of the Habapang, who was passing through and decided to reserve the entire cafe because he hates being near commoners. With his usual sarcasm, the boy rises slowly, pretending not to know the name and asking what all the fuss is about. To his surprise, one of the guards answers with a punch to the stomach, sending him crashing down the corridor and knocking over every table along the way. Of course, our protagonist has no intention of letting things end like that. As he begins to stand, already preparing himself, he complains about getting dragged into yet another fight when he was just trying to enjoy some peace. But before he can make a move, something unexpected happens. Money is tossed at him. The other guard throws down bill after bill in an attempt to buy his quiet exit. Before Hajjam Wu can even decide whether to get up, the two stand at attention. They bow to their master, who has just arrived, immediately apologizing for not having taken the trash out of the room. Pang Duxian, with the lilac hair that marks his family line, enters the space, radiating superiority. The young heir takes his seat like he owns the place, with his feet on the table and a cocky posture. He scolds his guards for not doing their job properly the first time. But as one of them turns around to finish removing the trash, Hajjam Wu is no longer there. From a distance, he observes Pang Duxian, not expecting him to have arrived in the country so soon. The boy stays focused, having already suspected that with the fall of the Black Tiger clan, the Habapang would act sooner or later, since they serve as a means for the group to gain influence and win their own domestic power struggle. Hajjam Wu decides to take care of this personally, leaving Siu Munil and the reincarnation of his rival to his squad for now. Still lost in thought, he's once again surprised by someone unfamiliar. A white-haired boy approaches him, trying to intimidate him. Hajjam Wu doesn't react to the insults, but confused, asks if the guy even knows him. The white-haired stranger responds with a question, already knowing Hajjam Wu has no idea who he is. Then, without warning, he attacks with fire magic and promises to meet again soon. Hajjam Wu easily dodges the attack and concludes the guy is absolutely insane. After all, he attacked and disappeared just as quickly, leaving Hajjam Wu furious. The flashy pyrotechnics draw the attention of Pang Duxian, who sees the flames atop a nearby building. What had moments before been the stage of a fiery display is now empty. Hajjam Wu returns to the building, searching for his attacker, but he quickly realizes the boy had already fled, and now he can only wonder who that lunatic was to strike so suddenly. Back at the Celestial Peace Gate, the location is once again chosen for diplomacy. A new meeting begins with the clan leader as hosts and the other leaders gathered around the table. A man opens the door only to announce the arrival of young Pang Duxian. Moments later, the towering guards and the hare enter the room without any regard for formality. The host stands to greet him, but the hare blatantly ignores him, leaving the man stunned by the sheer rudeness. Duxian captures everyone's attention by making it clear he didn't come to chat. The other leaders immediately begin questioning the boy's posture and arrogance. But the young man couldn't care less and jumps straight into the matter, stating that a fight between Koreans has resulted in the disappearance of another direct heir of the Habapang, announcing next that Habapang would then take full control of the investigations. The monk leader grows furious, demanding more respect from the boy who overflowed with arrogance. But Pang Duxian once again shows he's not playing around, destroying the meeting table with a single hand. Wooden splinters fly everywhere. Some of the leaders are in shock at the gratuitous violence. Hovik in his place looks ready to start the fight right there. The heir of Habapang demands that the culprit be handed over immediately if they don't want his interference. As expected, Lee Hoguk stands up from his seat laughing at the kid and asking if he really thinks he's that tough. Even though this time he's within his rights, the host still scolds the brute, saying this is an important discussion. With his habit of seeing everyone as rivals, leader Lee Nao Yun questions his colleague on whether he'd be able to stop him. Using his position at the location, the head of the Celestial Peace Clan gives permission for everyone present to attack Hoguk if he tries anything. All the clan leaders rise from their seats equally ready for a fight. But Lee Hobik's smile shows that nothing intimidates him. He activates his divine chi without hesitation, making it clear they'll only find out what he's capable of by testing their luck. Now even the arrogant hare, realizing such hostility, judges them as ill-mannered, once again affirming that from now on the investigation would be his and asking them not to interfere or it would start a war. At the gazebo near the Celestial Peace Gate, Hajjam Wu is once again waiting for the end of the meeting. Immersed in his thoughts, the boy wonders where the debate is headed, asking himself if the hare would be able to hide his true intention there. Hajjam Wu remains stiff with a serious expression while committing to himself not to interfere for now. Suddenly, Cha Yun-jung comes running toward him, waving. He's caught off guard despite being at the nerd's house. The girl arrives already asking why he disappeared, but he just gives some excuse about having emergencies. She then changes the subject, now questioning the boy's absences, who hadn't been to the academy for a long time, and once again he avoids the topic. From a distance, the girl's father, accompanied by another leader, observes the conversation. He explains to his colleague that Hajjam Wu is responsible for the recent growth of the Diamond Gate clan. The monk asks what the bearded one is planning to do, and he starts an explanation about how Habapang has support from the Chinese government, which the monk doesn't quite understand. He continues, saying they'll have to comply with Habapang and must avoid a fight at all costs. The monk agrees but remains confused by the reasoning. When Min Chiol finally mentions his biggest problem with all this, which is the difficulty of persuading Lee Hobuk to follow Habapang's terms, the old man questions whether something like that is even possible, since the brute almost picked a fight with everyone at once. And while Hajjam Wu talks with the nerd, the girl's father explains that he is the only way to frustrate the leader of the Diamond Gate. At the gazebo, while the conversation between the teenagers seemed to flow, a familiar boy appears. Hajjam Wu recognizes him instantly, becoming disturbed. But Che Yun-jung greets him kindly, calling him brother. Our protagonist can't accept that the lunatic from the rooftop could be the girl's brother, so she decides to introduce them, explaining that Yu Ho-myeon will be her clan's successor, and that they grew up together. At that moment, the boy steps in closer, throws his arm around Hajjam Wu's shoulder, and reminds her that actually they were supposed to get married. Hajjam Wu is shocked to hear something about marriage, but before he can confirm it, Ho-myeon is already accusing him of flirting with his fiancée. Right after trying to defend his intended, the boy is already starting a fight with a well-placed punch to his rival. Still at the Celestial Peace Gate, many twists happen all at once. Lee Hobuk and his son Kang Chun are looking for Hajjam Wu. Unable to reach him by phone, the leader grumbles that the boy shouldn't have left. Kang Chun, in turn, comments that he hasn't spoken to his friend in a long time, and even if he asked, he wouldn't get an answer about what happened. Frustrated with the whole situation, Hobuk ends up letting it go. Remembering the reaction of the other 6 leaders, he gets excited again. And as he activates his power once more just for fun, his son scolds his father, reminding him not to use that recklessly. But the brute is too thrilled. After all, he's always waited for the opportunity to fight. Suddenly, an explosion nearby catches both their attention. The teenage drama was escalating quickly, and now Ho Myung was already attacking with his fire magic. Chae Yoon-jung could only scream, not understanding the reaction of someone she clearly only considered a brother. But the boy was determined and told her to just step aside, because this was a matter between men. Another flashy explosion is sent in the direction of his romantic rival. From a distance, the two gossiping leaders are still watching, and with pride, the leader of the Celestial Peace Clan presents his clan's secret weapon, assuring he would win. The old man, on the other hand, points out that this dispute could worsen the situation between the clans. However, the bearded one seemed to already have everything set up, and since it was a personal matter, it wouldn't directly affect the clans. While they debate, the fight keeps escalating as the disciple of Celestial Peace gives his best with his flames. Hajjam Wu also does his best to block or at least dodge the attacks. Inevitably, he ends up getting hit by one or two. The boy doesn't tire and still charges at his rival with everything he's got. But to his surprise, the nerd steps in to protect her classmate, shocking both boys. Ho Myung shouts furiously, ordering the girl to step back, but she refuses, stating that he had already crossed the line. Not really understanding what was wrong with loving too much, the boy asks what exactly it means to cross the line. And the flashback begins when he was just 10 years old and introduced himself to the girl. She already knew his name and considered him an acquaintance, so she asked how he was doing. Before even answering, the boy offered her a gift since it was her birthday, and little Yoon-jung accepted it with great friendliness and joy. But the gift quickly vanished from her hands. Her father, the clan leader, appeared right at that moment with his overprotective demeanor, asking who the boy was. The boy introduced himself formally with a friendly smile, saying he was a candidate for the Chloride Squad. But the leader's reception was anything but kind, and his expression of outrage was clear. The boy was startled, not understanding the reason for that reaction. Even little Yoon-jung started to cry upon seeing her father's grimace. But Chief Min-cheol was unyielding, already driving the boy away from his daughter. Later that night, poor Ho Myung curled up in a dark corner. That's when one of the squad members who was training him arrived, casually asking about the mess with the master's daughter. The little boy, with tears in his eyes, still didn't answer, but the trainer kept talking about how that was to be expected, which enraged the boy, who now complained feeling wronged, while the man just laughed at the situation. He then explained to the kid that if he wanted a relationship with the leader's daughter, he'd have to be stronger. That marked the boy, who repeated it to be sure, and was reassured by the man who said the strongest gets everything. Determined to become the best in the squad, he started training even harder. Even in dangerous situations like climbing, he was always at the top in the arena. No one could defeat him, and as he grew, he fought even more opponents at once, always asking for more and more challengers. He remembers everything he went through as he holds the nerd girl's shoulders and explains that he did it all for her. But Chae Yoon-jung makes a face and complains about the boy's strength. Now irritated and frustrated, Ho Myung yells at the girl, demanding that she acknowledge all his effort, which ends up having the opposite effect and makes her command the boy to stop since she's already uncomfortable. He then screams even louder, as if that could make anyone understand. He questions the girl's feelings, remembering when he saw her talking to Hajjam Wu, even recalling when she awkwardly tried to bring a cake to the boy who didn't even care. He shouts, asking why she'd like a guy like Hajjam Wu and not him. Reaching the peak of his breakdown, he decides that from then on, the girl would need his permission for everything. But of course, she wouldn't submit so easily and instinctively activates her magic, making him step back. He still tries to smooth things over, but it seems to be too late. The nerd is disappointed and makes that very clear as she once again asks her friend to stop there. In disbelief, Ho Myung is speechless upon realizing the direction things were going. When finally consumed by sorrow, he ends up lunging at the girl herself, but is interrupted by a punch from Hajjam Wu, who this time steps in as her protector. Now even the protagonist is irritated with all the drama, and the boy doesn't care because his anger speaks louder, making him tremble. With his usual demeanor, Hajjam Wu explains that he wasn't fighting back because he believed it was a misunderstanding, but patience has its limits. Feeling offended, Ho Myung goes into attack mode, saying his rival must have a death wish. But now the dark prodigy is fed up and itching for a fight, ready to unleash his stress. He just didn't expect to take a punch from his opponent right off the bat. Then he realizes something's wrong, he can't move. Ho Myung doesn't give him any time, already coming in with another blow while questioning Hajjam Wu's interference. This time, the boy manages to dodge and takes the opportunity to ask if his rival really thinks that's love. And with a counterattack, he declares that all of it is nothing but coercion and violence. Disoriented by the strike, the boy repeats those words with a sarcastic tone. Once again filled with rage and self-righteousness, he inflates his ego to say no one understands everything he's done for the girl. Both are surprised by a new intervention in the argument. Yoon-jung shares her point of view, reminding her friend she never asked for any of it, that those were his feelings, not hers. Ho Myung suddenly sees his pride shatter. Realizing his love wasn't returned, he becomes frustrated, Seeing where things are heading, Hajjam Wu tells the nerd to step away, but she isn't convinced. So to show he's serious, the boy yells at her to leave right now, which ends up making the girl obey. She activates her magic to create a portal and asks her classmate to be careful. With a hysterical laugh, Ho Myung is in disbelief. Feeling humiliated, he decides to end Hajjam Wu once and for all. He charges at his rival without hesitation, ready for revenge. Meanwhile, the monk leader questions Min Chul's methods, but he says victory is what matters. The old man then glares at him, judging his priorities while his own daughter was at risk. As if reading his mind, the Celestial Peace Clan leader says he knows he seems heartless, but asks the elder to look around. And when he does, he sees Young Pang watching the fight closely, as well as their fellow clan leaders who had already been there for some time observing the violent drama. The bearded man explains that even if informal, the fight will influence everything, since Hajjam Wu's defeat would be a loss for his clan. Returning to his magic, Ho Myung continues his consecutive attacks. Once again, Hajjam Wu realizes he's somehow immobilized and ends up taking the full force of the fiery strike. But now that of finding a way to defend himself, his rival isn't satisfied and prepares for another assault. And as the sequence of blows hits Hajjam Wu, his friend Kang Chun watches from afar in despair. Lee Hobuk grows thoughtful, recognizing his vice's opponent and confirming his suspicions. Kang Chun asks what kind of power the boy has to hold his own against his friend. But Hobuk only knows it's a strange attribute no one has any information about. Hajjam Wu starts catching on to his enemy's rhythm and realizes it was the mysterious attribute that paralyzed him. He believes he dodged the attack, but soon notices his opponent is very close, this time too close to defend or dodge, sending him straight to the ground. Our protagonist seems about to suffer his first defeat in this life, fallen and wounded from the impact. But as Ho Myung prepares to deliver the finishing blow, something different stirs in our prodigy. His eyes ignite with determination as he concludes the best way out of the situation. While Ho Myung manifests a massive fire fist through his magic, Kang Chun and his father cheer from afar, hoping Hajjam Wu can react. The flames shoot from the boy toward his target with force, causing a huge explosion. The clan leaders are amazed by the sheer power. They're certain that after a blow like that, it must be the end of the fight. But young Kang Chun doesn't doubt his friend for a second and notices something. It's Hajjam Wu, our dark prodigy, returning to the attack as if he'd taken no damage at all. Everyone is in shock, including the dramatic rival. Proud and full of himself, Hajjam Wu anticipates his opponent's confusion with a smile on his face. The boy doesn't understand how Hajjam Wu couldn't have discovered his secret, trying with all of his might to regain control of the situation. But before he can react, another punch from Hajjam Wu lands full of rage, causing the boy to panic, realizing his power might have lost its effect as he begins to lose consciousness. The boy starts to drift into delirium, once again remembering his past with his trainer. He was always there to support him as he recovered from his intense training sessions. The trainer even granted him benefits like the subjects that would be on his tests, leaving him deeply moved by such help and encouragement. Then he remembers the night when everything changed, when he finally reached the top and went to tell his greatest supporter that he was now the leader of the Chloride Squad branch. The trainer, with a warm hug, still expressed confidence that the boy could become the squad leader. And as they talked, he told the trainer that to achieve that, he'd need to become even stronger and still needed help. When suddenly, what was once a supportive memory took a dark turn. Teenage Ho Myung had stabbed his greatest ally in the back. He didn't do it with joy, but with tears and sorrow, because he needed the attribute. The trainer, with difficulty, said he only had to ask and he would have given it to him. But crying, Ho Myung revealed that his attribute was theft, and he could only take his trainer's power by killing him. His friend's reaction was a completely unexpected smile, and a compassionate hug that left the boy speechless. His trainer was determined to help him with his own life, so that he could have everything he ever wanted. The shock of remembering all that pain snaps Ho Myung fully back to consciousness, and he charges into the fight again. But now it was too late, because the monster within Hajjam Wu had awakened. Ho Myung tries once more to attack with his flames, but this time Hajjam Wu is ready and warns him that his secret has been discovered, saying there's no point in trying. The protagonist counters with a strike, throwing his opponent against a wall and causing a massive impact. The boy is left on his knees among the rubble, but he's not defeated yet, still looking for support to try and stand, even coughing, wounded, and exhausted. Before continuing, he decides to ask how his rival managed to overcome his secret attribute. Proud, our protagonist explains that despite being a dangerous ability that got him hit a few times, he picked up on some clues. Ho Myung is even more confused and asks who could have given him those clues. And Yoon Jung reveals herself without hesitation, reappearing near the battlefield. This shocks the boy. He never expected that from his friend. And to make it clear that it was really her, the girl says loud enough for all to hear that the ability was to atrophy the opponent's muscles, causing paralysis. Hajjam Wu, in turn, explains that once he knew that, he used a technique to reverse the state of his own muscles. Desperate and worried, Ho Myung asks how the girl knew about his attribute. Even before answering, her expression is far from pleasant. Then she begins to tell how Ho Myung's trainer once showed her that ability. He was very insecure and thought his power was too strong for him. But the girl believed he could become very powerful But the man was convinced it would be more useful to his friend. Even though she tried to convince him he should use that power himself, he still didn't want it, insisting it would better serve someone with ambition like Ho Myung. Telling that story had brought the boy to tears as self-criticism consumed him. His anger gave way to deep resentment, remembering that he had killed the one who supported him the most since childhood. But his grief doesn't last long, soon being twisted into a new belief. If he was a demon, he might as well live and act like one. Standing up, he asks his rival if he now understands why he must kill him, and makes it clear that his only goal there is this. Otherwise, everything he did was meaningless. Hajjam Wu just watches the boy but keeps his guard up. Ho Myung then resumes the attack with full determination, ready to honor the sacrifice of the one he saw as a brother. Our dark prodigy is unfazed by the drama and also charges into the fight with a smile on his face. Being faster, he lands a blow to his opponent's face without mercy, which causes the boy to spit blood and apologize to his friend as he loses consciousness. The day carries on as if nothing had happened. On a rooftop, Pang Du-xian is at a restaurant with his bodyguard. Sipping his iced tea, he asks the guardian's opinion on the fight they just witnessed. The bodyguard comments on Hajjam Wu's abilities and power, and the young master agrees, evaluating the boy as a class 7 in martial arts, or perhaps even stronger than the clan leaders. He stands up as if he's come to a new realization, that the growth of the Diamond Gate clan can only be the work of Hajjam Wu. The bodyguard then suggests they eliminate him before he gets any stronger, since one of their missions is to take down the strongest man in South Korea. But Du-xian's idea is different. He says he wants to ally with the boy, leaving his subordinate in doubt. Consumed by arrogance, the young master calls him stupid and asks where he was during the meeting. Since it was clear the clans were on the brink of self-destruction through an internal war, and beyond Lee Hoguk's explosive behavior, there was also Che Mincheol's unpredictability, making everything more interesting. After the morning battle, the Celestial Peace Gate still stands, but inside, someone was falling apart. Leader Che Mincheol throws a tantrum, yelling at his staff about the humiliation he had just suffered. Furious, he complains about the boy who should have won the fight but only made a fool of himself. Finally, he gives a loud order for everyone to hear to eliminate that useless brat. Behind the door, his daughter hears everything, shocked by her father's reaction. Shortly after, determined footsteps echo down the hallway. A door opens. But the men are surprised to find that Ho Myung is no longer there. They talk among themselves about what to do next while the wind flows through the window. Meanwhile, at the Diamond Gate clan, Secretary Kim is once again storming through the corridors, furious. He finds his young master Kang Chun, who greets him with a cheerful smile. But the man walks right past him, saying he has no time. The boy asks why he's so agitated, but the assistant insists he's not upset. Ironically, fleeing open the leader Lee's door, looking more irritated than ever. His aura and expression leave no doubt about his temper, and he says he's there because of the war, while Hobuk plays dumb. With a psychotic glare, Mr. Kim reminds him that all the leaders are watching them, and shouts, asking how he could take out the Celestial Peace Clan's squad leader right in front of them all. But Hobuk quickly shifts the blame. Hajjam Wu, who is soon called in by the leader for support, worsens the situation by pointing out that, besides the leaders, Pang Du-xian also witnessed everything. But he quickly justifies himself, saying the best defense is a strong offense, since an explosion is now inevitable, concluding that the clan should prepare in advance to strike at the right moment. Kang Chun watches everything in silence, knowing his friend is right. A few days later, everything starts unfolding unexpectedly at the academy. While the place seems empty, noises can be heard behind the buildings. A chubby, not-so-athletic boy is being targeted by bullies. 3 thugs are making sure he knows his place as someone who shouldn't boast about being at the academy. The boy tries to protect himself but keeps getting hit, while the bullies mock his attribute. One of them rummages through the poor boy's things and finds his phone showing pictures of his sister. Not worried for his little sister, he begs them to leave her out of it and not do anything. But before he can react, one of the bullies attacks again, stomping on his hand, and crouches down to speak closer in a threatening tone. He turns on the camera and warns the boy that if he doesn't want his sister involved, he must strip and run through campus. His buddies are already back at his side, ready for the fun when someone intervenes. Yuhara, the popular girl passing by, quickly asks if they're looking for trouble. Being fans, they forget about their target for a second and rush toward the girl asking for autographs. Instead, the first to reach her is also the first to get hit. He's thrown against the wall while the blonde explains that she doesn't give autographs to people like them. She's dead serious and warns that all 3 of them are screwed. One of them finally sees her as a threat and tries to grab her from behind. But Yuhara's flexibility is well developed, and with a leg move, she strikes the boy in the forehead. The other one, standing farther away, is still trying to make sense of it. She's famous and pretty, so he doesn't get how she could also be strong. Without much drama, she explains that she trains hard every day and won't waste time listening to nonsense. Despite the bravado, she knows she only learned martial arts not to lose to Hajjam Wu, and now for the first time it's coming in handy. Now that she's shown she's not messing around, the girl orders the bullies to apologize. But that's not what the guys have in mind. They now decide to go on the offensive, charging at the girl with speed. The blonde dodges a surprise attack with impressive agility. But another one of the boys was already attacking too, and she had to defend herself. Realizing they were well coordinated and outnumbered her, she decided to back off. However, the third one was already prepared for that, waiting for her in a striking position. Caught off guard, the girl sees a clenched fist heading toward her face. But before it could land, a hand intercepts the blow. It's Hajjam Wu, the big name at the academy, who defends the popular girl with style. A bit lost, the bully asks who this guy is to butt, and Yuhara, on the other hand, recognizes him immediately. Though she's a little confused by his presence there, despite the girl's not-so-enthusiastic expression, he greets her with a kind smile. The boys, who had seemed confident moments before, are now stunned and wide-eyed. Quickly dropping to their knees, they beg for forgiveness. The senior smiles and waves, saying all he wants is for everyone to be friends. And just like that, the same bullies who had been so aggressive now rush to pick up the chubby boy and offer themselves up so he can return the beating. Hajjam Wu says he's happier now seeing everyone getting along, while the boys carry the chubby kid to the infirmary. Yuhara is surprised and comments on how easily he managed to terrify the bullies. He deflects, asking if she has a moment, since he has something to discuss. Suspicious, the girl tries to guess what this conversation might be about. But in truth, she's been waiting for Hajjam Wu, who still had replied to her messages. Only now, as he gets closer, is the boy reading them. He reflects for a moment upon reading her texts and realizing she had no idea about his disappearance and was worried. Then he notices a different feeling about the situation. He decides he really owes the blonde. After all, she only attends the academy because of him, and if she came back regularly, she could even train magic with Yoon Jung. Then he remembers that, in fact, the nerd would also be away from school for a while. Recalling his recent battles, he also decides to speak with the magic instructor, since his opponents had used it to boost their abilities. While calculating his next steps, the boy is suddenly surprised by the appearance of his squad leader right beside him. Hajjam Wu asks the man about leads on his case, but the leader informs him that there are barely any clues, as Siu Mumil seems to have vanished without a trace. Our protagonist realizes that this means his enemy is growing stronger and grows concerned. But suddenly, his expression changes as he becomes excited at the thought of a more interesting fight. At that moment, the squad leader adds that on the other hand, he has information about the other man. He then says that although he doesn't know what he looks like, he knows the man is part of the Association of Singulars, bringing his commander back into a more serious mindset. He explains that the association works alongside guilds and clans to supervise rifts, and he believes the target was trying to test something. Deep in thought, Hajjam Wu concludes it makes sense, since Jin Gangbake could climb higher ranks through the rifts. To wrap up the conversation, his subordinate also mentions seeing Yuhara leaving with a guy, which instantly stirs a mix of concern and curiosity in Hajjam Wu. Meanwhile, in a fancy hotel downtown, the blonde gets straight to the point, asking the guy to be direct because she doesn't want to waste time. He agrees, and with perfect posture and a decisive tone, he announces that Yuhara is now his fiancée. The girl is in shock at the statement and doesn't even know how to react other than questioning what she just heard. She stands from the table with a jolt as the realization sinks in, and as if it were the most natural thing in the world, the preppy guy tries to explain himself with charm. But Yuhara is strong-willed and makes it very clear she doesn't want any of that. With a straight face, he still tries to persuade her, talking about their powerful families, but she cuts him off, reaffirming she has no interest. She promptly leaves with a brief thanks for the meal and a curt goodbye. Storming out, completely outraged, the girl leaves the suitor stunned. He's still sitting at the table, processing what just happened. And still half in shock, he begins to laugh nervously. Covering his face, he gradually stops laughing, still looking strange. And now, indignation kicking in, he mutters that rich people should have more class. Back at the academy, the girl calls out to her friend. Hurrying over to him, she apologizes for being late. Hajjam Wu is proud as ever, says he doesn't care about the delay since he wasn't there for her. But Hara is still convinced he was waiting for her. Striking her signature cute celebrity pose to apologize again and charm the boy, who is left speechless seeing his friend putting in so much effort. But he quickly breaks her expectations, asking what all that was for. The girl pouts and complains about how Hajjam Wu always dismisses her feelings. But the boy's concern is something else entirely after all. She has the ability to see his skills, and he can't take that risk. As Yuhara gets closer again, apologizing once more for the delay, Hajjam Wu wonders why she didn't say where she had been. Those questions quickly fade from his mind as he's pulled by his friend, who says she has somewhere to take him. Answering his question about where they were going, the girl says that because of him, her parents are trying to introduce her to suitors. The protagonist starts to sweat just thinking about where this is headed. But now Yuhara is serious, explaining that her parents could choose at any moment who she's going to marry. At that moment, Hajjam Wu decides to show he knows more than he's letting on and mentions Hajjam Wu from the Ilwu group, whom she went out with earlier. Though a bit flustered at being caught, the girl remains determined and says her father will recognize Hajjam Wu as her fiancé once he sees him. This time, the boy doesn't dodge or deny it. On the contrary, he brings up her grandfather as the real obstacle. Yuman Shun, a stubborn and demanding old man, holds the position of president of the Daehan group. And coincidentally, at that very moment, he is in a meeting with Hee Yoon Chol, Hajjam Wu's father, who is seeking investment. As the man explains his new technologies, the elder remains unconvinced, telling him not to lie for personal gain. Still, since it's business, the old man calms down and says he'll review things carefully and will respond regarding the energy rock battery production. Yoon-chul simply bows and thanks him for the opportunity before leaving. He walks out of the building, lamenting how difficult it is to find investors, but still happy for the chance to talk with the head of such a major group. Suddenly, he hears his phone ringing inside his briefcase. He quickly answers, identifying himself as Yoon-chul from the Hanyang factory. Seconds later, the man is in shock, shouting if the investment is real, drawing the attention of everyone around. Elsewhere, on the screen of a device is Hajjam Wu's photo and profile. It's Hajjam Wu going over his file with some boredom despite acknowledging the boy's feat in defeating Park Kyo. Then someone interrupts, saying the only reason he's still alive is that the Black Tiger clan was eliminated. It's Pang Duxian, standing near Hyun Wu's desk, greeting him like an old friend. The boy just stares at the young master Habapeng, who in turn gives him a strange insult, saying he looks worse than ever. The boy doesn't take offense, since it sounds more like a compliment, and greets the other by name. But being from an important family, Duxian takes offense, saying the boy shouldn't use his name, following up with a threat. Hyun Wu keeps his smug smile, knowing there's a binding agreement between his family's group and the Habapeng that can't be broken. Defying expectations, Pang Duxian grabs the boy by the neck with brutality to make it clear who's in charge. The boy realizes what's about to happen, as the Habapeng hair begins to crush his neck with his bare hand. But in the blink of an eye, he's no longer there, he's already sitting elsewhere in the room. Duxian smiles, calling him a clever little fox. Now Hyun Wu is ready to talk seriously and asks the young man to take a seat, but he refuses and takes control of the conversation, going straight to the point. As a Habapeng representative, the young man says his family is not pleased with the path the Ilwu group is taking. The preppy boy just watches silently, not understanding where he might have breached the agreement. And the young master Pang continues with a threat, but Hyun Wu interrupts, asking if they truly want the Ilwu group as an enemy. Duxian confirms, complimenting the boy's perceptiveness. Without much fuss, the Ilwu representative sends a clear and direct message that the 7 clans and the association will soon be at the mercy of Habapeng. Pang's expression softens a bit, showing satisfaction. He turns to leave, considering the matter closed. But just as he reaches the door, he stops, then turns to talk about the situation with Hajjam Wu. With a mischievous smile, he warns that it will be interesting and that the young man shouldn't underestimate him. Hyun Wu prefers not to comment, remaining silent and reflecting on what was said. The next day, the visit is no surprise. At the Hanyang factory, a business meeting begins with a sincere thank you for a large investment. Hyun Wu, in the position of an investor businessman, says he wouldn't miss this chance, especially knowing he's investing in the father of a fellow gym member. Yoon-chul thanks him again, moved by the opportunity, and promises to give his all to deliver everything on time. The meeting ends and the workday begins at the factory. An employee questions Yoon-chul about the loan he took out, using the factory as collateral to cover production. But the man's confidence is high, since his client is the Ilwu group and his only concern is having everything ready on time. Suddenly, the game changes when another employee bursts in desperately, announcing that the order was being cancelled. Panic and distress take over the boss, who can only ask what is happening. The Ilwu group building remains imposing, but inside, Yoon-chul collapses, begging on his knees for young Hyun Wu to save him. Amused by the man's terror, the young man pretends not to understand what's going on. The man in turn explains that if the order is cancelled, the factory will go bankrupt and begs him to reconsider. The young man then changes his tone, saying the product is defective and needs to be cancelled, but Yoon-chul is sure everything had been tested. The stiff-suited young man takes offense and asks if he's being accused of lying. Still in panic, the man only apologizes, not knowing how to respond. Hyun Wu stands up and harshly says he's disappointed. After all, he only wanted to help a fellow gym member. Thus, Hajjam Wu's father begs even more for his help, already breaking down in tears. Hyun Wu plays his card and demands the rights to the super manufacturing technology in exchange for not canceling the order, leaving Yoon-chul surprised and confused by the situation. Elsewhere, already knowing the story, young Pang Duxian laughs out loud at his partner's idea, already realizing that this could bring major problems to the entire Ilwu group just for a personal revenge. The guard asks the young master what they should do, but he says to just watch, as it's not important for now. After all, he instinctively knows that the secret behind the annihilation of the Tiger clan is the key to putting the clans in check. Now they approach the entrance to the old Black Tiger Gate, and the young master says that the more the investigation advances, the more certain he is of one thing, explaining that it's clear whoever did it knew everything around them, and even stating that the man who destroyed that clan did it alone. One of the guards doubts the possibility, as the clan leader was extremely powerful and skilled in martial arts. But Pang Duxian has a much simpler view and says that it doesn't matter how strong someone is, if they meet someone stronger, it's over. Walking through the place, the young man explains that the person behind it is not only strong but very clever, at covering their tracks and incriminating others. He then asks what the guards' guess is on who would benefit most from the fall of the clan. Immediately, the two understand it could only be related to the Diamond Gate. Dushin smiles and confirms the theory, but something still bothers him. When the guards ask how the Diamond Gate could cause such a thing, the young man says there really isn't a master capable of wiping out so many people in that clan. Despite being strong and very powerful, Lee Hobuk still wouldn't be able to destroy the entire clan alone, which leads him to wonder who else might be hiding their hand, immediately thinking of Hajjam Wu. But he questions himself, certain the boy doesn't have the level of an absolute master. In the end, the young man only concludes that it was the work of an absolute level master and that they should investigate what caused enough resentment to lead to such destruction. He ends with the order to find out who that master is from the clues they have so far, and his guards simply agree. Around the city, things seem calm as almost always, until Kang Chun, the heir of the Diamond Gate, arrives in a rush, warning Hajjam Wu of a new problem while the boy walks along calmly. With the same unconcerned face, our protagonist changes the subject and asks if his friend is upset about Yuhara. Immediately, Kang Chun remembers and questions Hajjam Wu if he's really going to marry the girl, while Hajjam Wu asks if he's old enough for that. Making it clear that this is not his intention so his friend doesn't get upset, he returns to the main topic and asks what happened. Distressed, Kang Chun asks if it's true that the heir of the Ilwu group was looking for a fight, since dealing with someone like him could be difficult. Seeing the concern on the boy's face, Hajjam Wu asks if Kang Hyun-woo is really that powerful. His friend explains that beyond being powerful, the young heir makes good use of his strength. After all, as heir to one of the 5 largest conglomerates, he uses his influence to intimidate his enemies before even fighting. Hajjam Wu is confused by the explanation, and Kang Chun realizes his friend doesn't understand any of it. So he simplifies the matter by saying that the boy uses the power of the Ilwu group to crush his opponents. At that moment, Sunian, Hajjam Wu's younger sister, arrives breathless and exhausted. While Kang Chun tries to greet and hug the girl, she simply pushes him away, saying it's not the time for that. Turning directly to her brother, she tells him something has happened to their father. It's already the end of the workday at the Hanyang factory, and with regret, Chief Yoon Chul gathers his employees to apologize. In front of the workers, the man laments having made them work so long only to now end up going bankrupt. But the workers aren't upset with the boss, and in fact try to motivate him not to give up and to keep trying with new investors. Bowing, the leader apologizes again, explaining that since they use bank funds, there's nothing they can do now. Despite the tears in his eyes, Chief Yoon Chul stands up with a smile, thanking his subordinates for their work. The commotion is great, and no employee is ready to give up on the factory, when suddenly, an employee who wasn't at the meeting arrives, joyfully shouting that a new investor has appeared. At that moment, Yoon Chul's face lights up again with the news. Quickly, a new meeting begins to discuss business. In the room, the leader presents his product, explaining its efficiency and functionality. The investor is sitting in the dark, watching when he thanks them, but says he's noticed a few problems. The man seems a bit uncomfortable but asks the shareholder to share his concerns. He explains that although the product is excellent, he's worried about the supply of energy stones, since they need them constantly. That concern leaves Chief Yoon Chul unsure of how to respond, but he just lowers his head and asks if they really had to go that far, as the investor is revealed to be none other than Hajjam Wu. But the young man simply says that of course they do, after all, there's a lot of money at stake. At the Ilwu Group building, an important meeting is also taking place. Executives from the conglomerate and Hyun-woo gather to hear explanations about the superproduction. The man leading the presentation explains that the market potential is even greater if they join forces with the Guild Alliance for the supply of Rift Stones. He ends the explanation by saying that market domination of lithium batteries will be inevitable over time. While listening and observing attentively, Hyun-woo can only think about how favorable his position is to gain more influence in the group. But suddenly, an assistant bursts into the room in panic, bringing news of trouble. Without filters, the man reveals right there that the Hanyang factory has found a new investor, leaving the young man distressed as he realizes his plan is falling apart. The day's end brings new colors to the city. Arriving in his apartment, Hajjam Wu asks his father how much longer he'll stay in the car. The man gets out, still seeming unable to process everything that's happened. Curious about his father's reaction, the boy asks what's wrong, but his father only asks him to pinch him. Taking it literally, Hajjam Wu pinches the old man's cheek, who immediately regrets asking. But now he's sure that everything is real. After all, he's feeling quite a bit of pain. Now recovered, the man asks his son how he managed to invest so much. Hajjam Wu impatiently replies that he just invested his salary as vice leader of the Diamond Gate clan. But it doesn't convince his father, who realizes the amount is far greater. The boy then quickly tells his father to keep quiet about the figures, reinforcing the threat that he would withdraw the investment if his father blabbed about the whole story. The boy adds that it must be a secret, especially from his mother, and his father confirms and agrees. The two then head into the building while chatting about dinner. Nearby, a suspicious car is lurking. Inside the car is Hyun-woo, observing his opponent's movements. He asks his assistant about the information that Hajjam Wu is the supposed investor, and the man confirms the previously analyzed information. The young heir then questions where a college student could get that much money, but the assistant says he hasn't gotten to that part yet. He then raises the theory that Hajjam Wu might have gotten support from the Daehan group since he was getting close to Yuhara. The young man immediately realizes the threat and how all the pieces fit together. As night peacefully falls over the city, Yuhara walks alone, though not feeling very confident. As she continues on her path, the blonde senses that she's being followed, which leaves her feeling completely uncomfortable. She looks back to make sure she isn't imagining things, and confirming her instinct, she starts running away from the pursuer, when suddenly another, even bigger man intercepts her, declaring the end of the line. Yuhara is now trapped between the two with no way out, as they talk about how they've been waiting for that moment. Finally, one of them lunges, threatening the girl's life. But Yuhara isn't as defenseless as she seems and greets him with a well-placed kick. At that moment, someone yells that the scene ends there, revealing the situation as nothing more than a performance for a film. Yuhara's demeanor immediately changes and she apologizes for the hit, while the man on the ground just smiles, pleased with the acting. The director appears, wrapping up the day of filming as the girl thanks everyone for their effort. Only then does the blonde notice the presence of someone she had been expecting. Hajjam Wu is there, waiting for her, well-dressed and holding a gift for the girl, and right after, they leave together in a luxury car. Yuhara thanks the boy for showing up for the occasion, and he says he wouldn't have missed it. The girl then asks if her friend is nervous, but he doesn't understand why he would be. She says it would be normal, since he's going to meet her parents. And when she realizes the boy is genuinely confident, the blonde gets a little annoyed. With an irrefutable argument, Hajjam Wu says she spoke well of her parents herself, so she just accepts it. With a warm smile, the boy says he trusts her, and that's why everything is fine. They finally arrive at their destination, Yuhara's house, a modern and luxurious place. As usual, Hara announces she's home while entering, followed by Hajjam Wu. To her surprise, she finds her grandfather at the entrance, someone she wasn't expecting to see there. The girl becomes nervous, questioning the old man's presence since he was supposed to be abroad on business. But the mustachioed elder takes it as coldness and starts complaining about the lack of affection he senses from his granddaughter. The grumpy old man stays planted in his armchair while Hajjam Wu analyzes the situation, realizing that Yu Manchul, the president of the Daehan group, is still quite vigorous despite his age. He then formally introduces himself as Yuhara's boyfriend. Sharply, the old man says he doesn't intend to let Yuhara date just any penniless brat. Embarrassed and confused, the girl questions her grandfather's impression of the boy. The mustachioed elder gets straight to the point and asks if he's correct about the factory's bankruptcy after the Ilwu group's cancellation. But Hajjam Wu firmly refutes him, saying he's poorly informed, since he had already resolved the issue himself. The old man is provoked by the boy's arrogance and says he doesn't trust a 17-year-old who invests billions of dollars. Even with the bodyguards ready behind him, Hajjam Wu stays calm and composed. Full of himself, the old man decides on his own that Hajjam Wu deserves a lesson for trying to use his granddaughter. Yet the boy says nothing and doesn't even react to the accusations. The guards are in position, batons ready for any sign of movement, while Yuhara yells, asking what they're doing since the situation is not at all what she expected. In the midst of all the confusion, Hajjam Wu just smiles. Noticing that the boy had no intention of reacting, the old man gestures and his guards instantly disappear. They stare at each other in silence for a few moments. Finally, Hajjam Wu speaks again to clear up the misunderstanding, asking if the old man thought he had asked his granddaughter for money. Upon confirming the suspicion, Hajjam Wu explains that he's not poor to the point of meaning to ask for money, and Yuhara confirms her grandfather's mistake. The old man then demands concrete proof that the investment really came from the boy. Instead of simply agreeing to the test, Hajjam Wu asks what he would gain from it. Being a man of business, the mustachioed elder promises to give his blessing, but if the boy fails to convince him, Hajjam Wu agrees never to go near the blonde again, who now seems even more confused. Ready for evidence analysis, the old man says they should begin. And Hajjam Wu says his item is quite valuable as he displays a proud smile. He places a small wooden box on the table in front of him, politely asking the old man to open it, while the latter simply chuckles at the object. He gently picks up the box to see up close what was kept inside, and as soon as he opens it, everything around is engulfed in a vibrant red light revealing a stone. The mustachioed elder is in disbelief at what his eyes behold. A beautiful rank 7 rift core rests inside the modest little box. He begins to sweat upon facing such a powerful artifact for the first time, and all he can do is ask who the hell this young man is. Hajjam Wu refuses to give any further details, and the old man appeals to the relationship at stake, but the boy reminds him of his promise. Thoughtful and convinced that he'll have to improve the Daehan group's intelligence staff, the elder lowers his head, but does not yet give his blessing. At that moment, Hara gets irritated with her grandfather again, and the old man explains that there was already another proposal from another family, but the girl objects, making it clear she won't end up with Hyunwoo. Once more agitated, the grumpy mustachioed elder now claims he doesn't believe it was really Hajjam Wu who obtained the rift core and orders his guards to go after the boy. The two guards reappear quickly, ready to strike, and our protagonist is always prepared. He hits one so fast the guard doesn't even see the blow coming. The other, however, wasn't harmed but also couldn't land a hit as the boy had dodged at lightning speed. Hajjam Wu smiles, ready to demonstrate his skill. Grabbing the guard's arm, he prepares his strike and smashes the guard's face directly against the nearest table with ease. Yu Manchul remains in place, observing coldly. When the boy sarcastically asks if he should keep going, the mustachioed elder admits his guards are top-tier elites and were taken down before they could even touch the boy. But Hajjam Wu simply asks if the test is over while brushing the guard aside. Looking around, Yu Manchul admits to himself that he was wrong and made a fool of himself before a teenager. He says he has one last question and asks Hajjam Wu if he knew the old man would be there. Yuhara looks at Hajjam Wu and questions him as well, since even she didn't know. But Hajjam Wu says that if he didn't know, it wouldn't have made sense to bring the Rift Core. The old man recognizes the boy's audacity and Hajjam Wu takes it as a compliment. He then turns to his granddaughter, asking if she really knows what she's getting into. The blonde grabs the boy's arm and makes it very clear that she already knew all of this, and more. Realizing there's not much he can do, Yuhara's grandfather simply laments that the girl has already fallen in love anyway. But Yuhara seems more determined than ever and says they'll live together forever. The elder recognizes that determination. In the end, he just gives in and grants his blessing to the two, with a certain distrust. Night advances over the city. A car speeds down the road. Behind the wheel is Kang Hyun-woo, wearing his usual blank expression. As he drives, the hair reflects on how he could have been rejected by the very president of the Daehan Group. His mind is invaded by a recent memory of his furious father, saying he's disappointed in a son who's become a laughingstock for not even managing to win over a girl. The boy trembles with rage as he grips the steering wheel, and he's determined to bring down his rival once and for all. In a high-end house in the city, something terrible is unfolding. Screams can be heard from outside the residence as efforts are made to protect the most important family members. In the mansion's hallways, several guards lie on the ground, fallen like flies. A call can be heard near the second floor, where a wounded man answers a video call on his assailant's phone. While someone in the video tells the man to reflect, he only says he will, as he begs for help. But the voice on the screen gives the order to finish the job, and so the killer does. With his round glasses giving him the appearance of an intellectual, the assassin has barely finished when his phone rings again. He pulls it from his pocket to answer, surprised by the caller. He answers immediately, maintaining his composure, and accepts a new assignment with a satisfied smile on his face. Night advances peacefully. Hajjam Wu announces his arrival home, taking off his shoes with a weary air. Despite the late hour, Hajjam Wu finds the living room empty. Still standing in the doorway, he wonders where everyone is. The answer comes in the form of an attack, and at great speed. Hajjam Wu easily dodges the strikes, wearing his best board expression. Being attacked from all sides, the boy simply evades without the need for large movements. And when everything calms down, he sighs and asks if he hasn't already taught them how to reduce footstep noise. His younger sister is once again launching an attack right in front of him, frustrated, saying she's doing her best. While she complains about her brother's exaggerated hearing, this time he defends the kick. Outraged, the girl says she's practically floating and he still heard her steps. She asks if he wants her to hate him, since he never lets her win. As a good motivator, the boy simply orders her to try harder if she ever wants to beat him. Frustrated, Sunyeon compares her brother to her friend's siblings, who don't teach them how to fight, but just buy them gifts. Hajjam Wu laughs and asks where they're from, since in their world, siblings like that don't exist. The girl crosses her arms and pouts, accepting defeat. Suddenly, their mother's voice rings out, asking what they're doing just standing there as she and their father walk in with groceries. Startled, both kids answer in unison with a guilty nothing, nearly caught fighting inside the house. The mother then tells them to wash their hands and get ready, as she'll be serving dinner soon. Tired, Hajjam Wu decides to take a shower, but his father grabs his shoulder, asking him to wait. Whispering, the man tells his son he sold a big batch of the product to the Daehan Group. Proudly, the older man says he had to share the news since his son is also his investor, but the boy wasn't expecting that. Furiously whispering, Hajjam Wu reminds him that the investment is a secret and asks him to be more discreet at home. As if enjoying himself, Yoon Chol leans closer to whisper that everything is fine thanks to him, while Hajjam Wu just begs him to stop talking. Their mother, now in the kitchen, turns her attention to them, asking if they're going to eat. Both confirm. A bit later, the boy tells his parents he's going out to meet Hara. It's already quite late, so his mother questions the timing, but Hajjam Wu explains that's exactly why he's going, to take her home safely. The boy's parents glance at the door with concern. The father asks if it's really okay to let him go out, but the mother reassures him, reminding him that the girl's family gave their approval. Proud, she gets excited, saying that soon her son might be part of the Daehan Group. Hajjam Wu walks through the quiet streets on his way to Hara's film set. Strolling calmly, the boy notices something feels off. Not far behind, the mysterious man with round glasses follows him without the slightest concern. Park Woo-sik, a member of the Assassin's Guild, analyzes his target, thinking how easy he looks. Then quickly correcting himself, he knows there's no such thing as easy or hard, just a request to fulfill. While lost in his analysis, he loses sight of the target. Realizing that the boy had already noticed his presence, yet still feeling confident, he immediately orders his shadowy lackeys to follow the boy. With a threatening gaze, he marks the beginning of the hunt, and disappears at high speed to pursue his prey. The direction they take leads them into a park. As they pass through, they leave a trail of destruction among the trees. No matter where Hajjam Wu goes, they keep following, until he stops in a kind of clearing formed by the trees they themselves destroyed. There, our protagonist once again finds himself surrounded by enemies. But without any alarm, he merely complains about their persistence and asks who they are. The assassin introduces himself as a good man doing a good deed, keeping naughty boys in check. Adjusting his glasses, he concludes by saying he needs to deal with a university kid who's been acting up, but promises it'll be quick. His henchmen get ready to attack as he keeps talking, saying the boy won't feel much pain. Hajjam Wu remains in place, silently observing the men surrounding him, until the assassin remembers. He needs to show the boy something, so he tosses his phone in his direction. On the screen is Hajjam Wu in a video call. The young hero strikes an arrogant pose in the shadows as he says he didn't want to go this far, but he's had too much interference. He bids farewell with a proud smile, wishing Hajjam Wu a pleasant afterlife. As the call ends, the assassin ironically asks if they can now get to the point, since the reasons are clear. As Hajjam Wu agrees, his face darkens, an ominous expression overtaking him. His dark expression quickly gives way to a psychotic smile as he quotes his own rival about choosing opponents wisely. Not understanding the danger they were in, the henchmen charge forward. The prodigy of chaos strikes again, his demonic grin widening. With his heavenly thunder strike, he knocks back and assaults everyone around him at once. Park Woo-sik shields himself, confused by the situation. But he has no time to think, because as Hajjam Wu says while appearing behind him, this is no time for surprises. His attack targets the assassin's vital organs, leaving him barely able to dodge in time. As soon as he escapes, he distances himself as much as possible. Still on the defensive, the man sees another strike coming. And this time, due to the sheer speed, he has no choice but to block, even if poorly. The assassin locks eyes with his target, wondering how no one warned him how difficult this mission would be. Frustrated, he tries to keep faith in his abilities, telling himself he'll complete the job and demand extra pay. Finally cornered, he activates an attribute to boost his speed. With a spatial leap, he reappears behind Hajjam Wu, dagger in hand. But he wasn't expecting even that speed to be slow for the boy, who catches him mid-attack. Gripping his neck, Hajjam Wu repeats the man's own words, saying it won't hurt a bit. And with a smile stretched in sinister delight, adds that it'll be quick. Hajjam Wu glares at his opponent, eyes bloodshot and full of murderous intent. Woo-sik is now terrified, realizing the true killer instinct in the boy's gaze. As our protagonist prepares to eliminate yet another threat, the only thought going through the man's head is how abnormal that student really is. He compares him to a wild predator in the middle of a hunt. Still possessed by his dark side, Hajjam Wu mockingly asks if he felt something, then immediately says it was nothing, letting the man's lifeless body drop to the ground. At last, everyone was dealt with and the problem there was solved. Hajjam Wu resumes his path toward his original destination, at least until a limousine screeches to a stop in front of him. Its doors open, revealing several armed individuals. They step out wielding swords and axes. The protagonist quickly realizes they're also after him, which makes sense since Hajjam Wu wouldn't risk relying on just one assassin. The boy mocks the group, saying they're pretty funny for people who call themselves assassins. The leader ignores the jab and simply tries to confirm his identity. Another member asks where Park Woo-sik is. Already out of patience, Hajjam Wu tells them to just get on with it. The tank of the group tries to warn him not to underestimate them or compare them to others, since they're from the second most powerful guild, Darkness. But the boy truly doesn't care. He just wants the fight over with. His indifference collectively offends the entire group, and they all charge. Meanwhile, at the film set where Yuhara works, Kang Hyun-woo waits with a bouquet in hand. Waiting patiently, the young hero assumes Hajjam Wu is no longer a threat. Knowing better than to rely on a single assassin, he's confident sending the Darkness Guild was the right call, and filming continues. The director speaks with the crew while Hyun-woo remains hidden nearby, calculating his expenses and what he'll gain with Hara. He's determined to win over the blonde and plans to use Hajjam Wu's death as a way to console her and grow closer. Someone bumps into him, snapping him out of his thoughts with irritation. He watches as the person walks away in a hoodie and sweatpants. Enraged, he yells for the rude person to at least apologize for bumping into him. The hooded figure turns around, revealing himself to be Hajjam Wu, who says he was distracted by his phone and didn't notice Hyun-woo. This leaves the hare completely stunned and spiraling in a panic. Hajjam Wu teases him, joking about the face of someone who just saw a ghost. Shocked, Hyun-woo tries to understand how he could possibly be standing there if he really eliminated the Assassin Guild's team. Yuhara finally finishes filming and quickly spots her boyfriend. She approaches, happy that he came, and Hajjam Wu notes she's being released earlier than expected. It takes her a moment to notice Hyun-woo, and she immediately wonders what he's doing there. Once again, Hajjam Wu fires off some sarcasm, saying the boy must be a huge fan since he even brought such a lovely bouquet. That pushes the young hare over the edge. He simply turns and storms off, trembling with rage. With the look of someone who has no idea how to take revenge, he throws the flowers to the ground with the full force of his hatred. Near his car, he screams into the void, demanding answers from the universe as to what could have happened to the assassins. And coincidentally, his phone rings. He quickly looks at the screen and notices a restricted number, already knowing what it's about. He answers, still furious, saying he was just about to call to ask what happened, but the voice on the other end also asks what went wrong. Nervously, the hare tries to demand answers, asking if it was all some kind of joke. After all, his target was still alive. And to his complete despair, he reveals that not only is Hajjam Wu still alive, but both Part Wusik and the Darkness Guild were annihilated, and he just wants to know what the hell is going on. Over the phone, the person responds by asking what kind of insinuation that is, suggesting that a single person could have defeated all those assassins. The boy now realizes the shift in tone and tries to backtrack, but it's too late. He has just become the main suspect for Choi Kyung-won, the master of the Darkness Guild. The young hare tries to defend himself, saying that it doesn't even make sense. But Kyung-won questions whether he's forming an alliance with Habupang to take over the guilds. Realizing how dangerous that sounds, the boy is in shock. He keeps insisting it's all a misunderstanding, now completely desperate. But the guild leader says it's no misunderstanding. Everyone in the Ilwu group already knows about that secret. Trembling and drenched in cold sweat, Hyun-woo tries once more to distance himself from the accusation. But the leader simply states that his loyalty will be tested, and to wait. The call ends, leaving the boy stunned, trying to figure out how the guild alliance found out. He knows that the Ilwu group and his father have been working hard to build ties with the guilds, and this could ruin everything. Distressed, he imagines the worst-case scenario. Not far away, someone is watching. Jung-woo, hidden behind a tree, observes his rival's despair. With his malicious smile, he knows this is only the beginning. But as the mag moves on, he wonders if it's time to move on to the next phase. At the same time, in another place, a different fight unfolds. A close friend is suffering from severe blows in combat. Kang Chun, successor of the Diamond Gate, is in serious trouble. His opponent is Pang Duxian, who holds him by the shoulder, asking how his father would feel upon hearing of his death. The surge in rift openings brought with it the rise of the guilds. Though newer than the great clans and once numerous, there are now only 8 left. Ranked second in power is the Darkness Guild, made up of over 200 rank 6 members and thousands more beneath them. And thanks to that same guild, Hyun-woo now finds himself in total panic, throwing everything into chaos. Biting his nails, he thinks about how to escape the situation, but imagines they already know about his recent visit from Pang Duxian. He even considers asking his ally for help, but quickly gives up the idea, remembering the young man's temperament. An interruption adds to his irritation when a secretary appears at the door with a report. The boy yells in rage that he already has enough problems, and the woman apologizes. He soon composes himself again and, remembering his position, calmly asks her to deliver the news. Already expecting bad news, the secretary begins by informing him that the Daein Group has signed a purchase contract for the super manufacturing product. Immediately, Kang Hyun-woo bursts into another fit of rage. The woman continues, stating that the product is doing well in the market, and if Ilwu Group doesn't act, they'll fall behind. Before she can say anything else, the boy throws sheet after sheet at her. He orders her to leave immediately. His hatred toward his rival grows more intense by the second. The young hero of the Ilwu Group is now determined to do everything in his power to expose and destroy his enemy. At the Diamond Gate clan, the day moves on as usual. Jung-woo talks with Mr. Kim about Kang Chun's disappearance, and Kim says he hasn't been able to contact him since the night before. The man insists he hasn't given up and is doing everything he can. But Jung-woo doesn't seem too worried about the situation. Without warning, the mood shifts as Lee Hobit bursts in, charging furiously at the boy. Used to the outbursts of the clan leader, the boy simply defends himself, causing the brute to stagger back several meters. Sensing his anger, the boy wonders what the problem is this time. He questions the leader in his usual irreverent and annoyed tone. Preparing a new attack, the brute shouts that he already knows about the boy's plan to marry Yuhara. Before the blow can land, Jung-woo simply shouts back that he's not getting married, which makes Hobik immediately shift the direction of his punch. The old powerhouse smiles in relief, but the boy adds that he's just not getting married yet. Angry, Chief Lee questions the boy's loyalty to his daughter, though clearly Jung-woo never had any intention of marrying that brat anyway. Hobik's expression turns harsh once again as he accuses his vice leader of being a traitor. Jung-woo, calm as ever, walks past him, saying that the whole marriage talk was way too sudden. The leader's temper explodes and shouts, asking how it could be sudden when he had endured countless sleepless nights just to have his daughter married to Jung-woo. Horrified by the brute's emotional outburst, the boy asks for more respect, reminding him he's still a minor. But Hobik retorts that he can't lie. He's completely against the marriage now. Running out of patience, our protagonist reminds the leader that he's not even his son. Hobik snaps back that he will be his son-in-law. Fed up, Jung-woo decides to end the matter by bringing up Kang Chun's disappearance, something that could no longer be ignored. Instantly, Hobik's demeanor changes, concern replacing fury as he turns to Secretary Kim for more information. The assistant, slightly uncomfortable, says they haven't heard from the boy since the previous night and that things seem strange. Surprisingly, Kang Chun's own father tells them to forget about it, insisting his son will turn up eventually. Now more confident, Lee Hoguk says it doesn't matter what the situation is, his son will be fine. Yawning, he casually starts walking out while Kim looks on in disbelief. Hobeth then stops, reconsiders for a moment, and decides it might be worth doing at least a little more searching. Mr. Kim nods, still clearly displeased with his master's response. Meanwhile, Hogo can only wonder what stupid mess his son got himself into this time. Jung Woo, still silent, watches the entire scene as if forming a plan. Leaving the Diamond Gate headquarters, Jung Woo now walks the streets, worried about his friend. He gives the order for his Black Squadron to mobilize and search for Kang Chun, and they respond immediately. Standing on the sidewalk, he observes a building. Judging the place from the outside, he wonders if Hara's filming was actually happening there. The boy enters and heads toward what looks like an auditorium, but the place is completely empty and he questions whether he's mixed up the location. At that moment, Hajjam Wu appears, stating that Jung Woo is indeed in the right place, because it's the stage of his downfall. Jung Woo quickly notices the large doors being locked shut. The hare stares at him with a defiant look, suggesting they begin the performance. At the snap of Hyun Woo's fingers, multiple screens light up throughout the room. On them, Jung Woo and Hyun Woo appear live, face-to-face, being filmed from various angles. They also appear on the screen of Kim Won, Master of the Darkness Guild, watching from his headquarters. The assassin leader seems quite entertained, amused by this VIP show that the hare decided to put on. Both boys stand still, neither saying a word. Finally, Jung Woo breaks the silence, sarcastically praising the strategy of using Hara to lure him in. Cameras capture everything, broadcasting in real time. Hyun Woo then says that this should be taken as an apology. Our protagonist now looks confused, but Hyun Woo explains that he should have taken his rival more seriously and hadn't imagined he could defeat Woo Sik and the Darkness members. That earns a genuine, proud smile from Jung Woo. Arrogantly, Hyun Woo continues, saying he intends to make up for it by fighting him personally. Excited, Jung Woo asks if the boy really has the nerve to cross his family again, promising he'll pay for what he's done. But Hyun Woo is confident in his attribute and remains unfazed, ready to unleash his power. Before Jung Woo can reply with his usual indifference, a spear drops from above, grazing his face. Stunned, he touches the cut, surprised. Then, to complete the surprise, he sees his opponent controlling multiple weapons and objects at once. Hyun Woo explains that he possesses a rare attribute, metal manipulation. Proudly, he adds that he studies all known metals across the world. Surrounded by weapons, he brags further that he's not just a manipulator, he's the best. Back to his usual posture, Jung Woo smirks sarcastically and asks if that's really something to brag about. He then vanishes right before being pierced by the flying blades. Unable to track his speed, Hyun Woo watches helplessly as the projectiles smash into the wall behind. Jung Woo reappears behind him, whispering that it doesn't matter if he manipulates metal. If he doesn't have mastery, it's useless. A sheet of iron detaches from one of the walls, and Hyun Woo turns it into a shield just in time to block a direct punch. A mix of irritation and excitement takes over Jung Woo, while his rival continues to display the arrogant smile of someone who knows he's being underestimated. Only then does our protagonist realize the guy is taking it seriously as he finds himself surrounded again by numerous spears and swords in the air. The young hare attacks with everything he has, forcing our protagonist to jump like a rabbit to dodge so many blades. He notices the rain of spears has ended and finally stops, facing his opponent through the field of spikes. Our protagonist is fed up but keeps grinning. Meanwhile, Hyun Woo realizes the guy wasn't taking it seriously after all, only dodging to avoid revealing his abilities. Suddenly, Jung Woo's phone ringing breaks the tension. Hyun Woo says he'll wait while the boy answers. The voice on the other end calling his name is Kang Chun's, who is completely battered but still manages to loudly ask his friend to save him. Chained up and held captive by Pang Dushin's guards, the boy asks if his friend can hear him. But the young Master Pang snatches the phone from him and speaks directly to Jung Woo, letting him know he's enjoying watching the fight, but that the boy should try harder if he wants to save his friend. The young man says he also enjoys a fight but needs to wait until Hyun Woo is defeated first. Jung Woo then seems to finally understand the cameras when he confirms that others are watching. But his excitement only grows, and now he questions Du Xian about his choice to kidnap Kang Chun. Arrogant as ever, the young master says the only one in trouble there is Jung Woo, and reveals he already found out everything about the Diamond Gate clan, having destroyed the Black Tigers and kidnapped his younger brother. Leaning on Kang Chun's shoulder with hostility to ask if he was wrong about that, the young master doesn't hesitate to break the boy's shoulder just so Jung Woo can hear him scream through the phone, followed by a direct threat to everyone in the clan, especially Kang Chun. Not satisfied, he also warns that the other clan leaders are aware too. While Jung Woo fights, a fleet heads toward the Diamond Gate, each leader in their own car, all ready to demand answers. Arriving at Jung Woo's clan at that very moment, Pang Dushin bids farewell, getting into his car and saying he'd like to see the end of the fight, but his priority is watching the extermination of the Diamond Gate, leaving the boy warned to be careful because Hyun Woo is more powerful than he seems. Our protagonist doesn't even get a chance to respond before the call ends, but he doesn't care and is now motivated. Thinking he was finally in control, Hyun Woo again explains that Jung Woo will have to defeat him if he wants to help his clan. Little does he know our protagonist is now ready to unleash the monster and make him deeply regret it. In the building where the fight is taking place, others can be heard interfering. Two upperclassmen pressure a freshman to open the sealed door, but the boy is scared. One of the upperclassmen orders the boy to open the door so they can record Kang Hyun-woo's true face, but the freshman knows he wouldn't stand a chance and is too terrified to act. The older ones threaten the short kid with brute force and emphasize that only he could do something since his attribute allows him to unlock any door or lock. Afraid of getting beaten up right there, the boy decides to take a chance as long as they don't punish him. He opens the door briefly, sweating bullets. Hajjam Wu is actually the one attacking with the power of hatred and a precise kick that throws his opponent against the wall, creating a crater. Hyun-woo now begins to reconsider after witnessing the boy's most basic strength without using any attribute. When he's caught off guard by a flash from the short boy who took his picture in a miserable state, he tries to say something to defend himself, but the door was already closed again and the boy had already left with a photo and an apology. Hyun-woo, despite being in the middle of a battle, had a reputation to uphold and ends up losing focus, being caught off guard by his rival who lands another blow. Sensing the danger of being hit by the kick, the boy tries to react and creates a titanium shield in front of him to defend himself, which doesn't impress our protagonist at all, who calmly slices the shield in half and still hits his opponent effortlessly. Watching that blow capable of breaking a titanium link, Kyung-won stands up in shock. The guild master realizes that Hyun-woo was right and that only Jung-woo could have been responsible for the death of his partners, becoming determined to also fight the boy who dared interfere in his work. With a bit more reasoning, the leader of darkness remembers that he is the vice leader of the Diamond Gate, concluding that the clan is looking to start a fight, and reaching the conclusion on his own that it could only have been that clan responsible for the massacre of the Black Tigers. Meanwhile, the fight continues at the Diamond Gate as a state of emergency is declared. Secretary Kim asks everyone to prepare for battle, and while the clan members take their positions, the assistant warns that the leaders of the 6 clans are on their way. Hobuk gets all excited about the opportunity to face all the chiefs at once, but is immediately scolded by Kim, even though he doesn't understand what was wrong with that situation. Almost in tears, the man explains to his boss that he shouldn't be happy at a time like that, and so they face the arrival of the clan leaders and their teams. Events in the clan are just beginning, but in the auditorium, everything seems to be coming to an end. Jung-woo would love to finish it all right there, but as he watches his opponent on the ground, he reconsiders, and heading toward the exit door, he's certain that Hyun-woo would remain immobilized for a while. His priority now should be his friend and clan in distress, but as he tries to open the doors, his hands are bound. Special handcuffs glow on his wrists, startling the boy. And like a phoenix reborn, Hyun-woo rises, determined to stop his rival from leaving at all costs. The boy says those handcuffs are made of an alloy that no power in the world could cut. Jung-woo, not very convinced, tests the artifact's resistance. But Hyun-woo doesn't waste time and says the boy's fate is sealed as he prepares his final attack. Emitting a large energy sphere toward his opponent, the hair declares the end of Jung-woo. As if frozen in time, our protagonist simply watches the sphere approaching. It hits the exact spot where the boy stood, leaving a trail of destruction in its path. This time, to make sure not to underestimate his opponent, Hyun-woo even forges a hammer in the air, also sending it in Jung-woo's direction to seal his fate. The building that seemed calm from the outside suddenly has a massive explosion that blows a hole in its wall. The exit door that was previously locked and immobile is now nothing but debris. The hare smiles with satisfaction and pride in his victory. With that intense blow that caused such destruction, it was impossible for Jung-woo to have survived. And now Hyun-woo is certain there was nothing special about the boy. Striking a pose, the hare of the Ilwoo group realizes he should have faced him from the beginning. But now that his goal is achieved, he simply waits for his partner Pang's success. The atmosphere is tense between the 6 clans and the Diamond Gate. Flying over the area, a drone approaches to record the events that will follow. Hobuk and his assistant Kim are not intimidated and stand firm in front of the battalion of people who are there to judge them. With his usual quirky temper, Hobuk doesn't hide his excitement at being challenged, asking if they all want to die there. Secretary Kim tries to calm him down even if he never succeeds. Perhaps that's why he now addresses the leader of the Celestial Peace Clan, asking about the reason for this sudden persecution. Cha Min-chul reports that they received information that the Diamond Clan was responsible for the extermination of the Black Tiger Clan. Immediately, Mr. Kim opposes the claim, saying it must be a mistake, when unexpectedly, a voice stands out saying it was no mistake. Pang Du-xian is finally present with his 2 guards and his hostage Kang Chun, claiming to have indisputable evidence. Kang Chun appears unconscious while being carried by the collar of his shirt by one of the guards, and the young master of the Habukpang clan, with a wicked smile, states that they will pay for what they've done. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.